Chapter 431. After checking his gains from this trip, it was time to condense the fourth spirit power seed. Wang Daoyuan condensed a fire attribute spirit power ball and drew out a wisp of red yang true fire. He extracted its essence and condensed the fire attribute spirit power seed. 3 days later, the scarlet gold fire attribute spirit power seed was completely refined. After the second refinement of the fire attribute spirit power seed, the fire attribute spirit power had also turned scarlet gold. There was nothing special about this spirit power, but when used to cast fire spells, its lethality would be greatly increased. The yang qi in the spirit power was no less effective against evil cultivators than the 5 elements divine lightning. As the disciple of perfected being Qi Yuan, Tu Yoming's clone had also learned the fire divine lightning. Although the fire divine lightning of the cruel sun palace only had 3 levels, he had 4 levels of the earth divine lightning and could try to derive the 4th level. After all, they were both 5 elements divine lightning and had many similarities that could be used for reference. Moreover, the fire divine lightning pearl in Zhou Wan's hands contained the 6th level of the fire divine lightning. Perhaps Blood's shadow also had a higher level of the 5 elements divine lightning and could think of a way to trick it over. With the fire divine lightning, coupled with the characteristics of the fire attribute spirit power, its restraining effect against evil cultivators would be greatly increased. The cultivators of the Thousand Spirit sect and Cruel Sun Palace were still in the clear glass market. The storm of this matter had not passed yet, so he was not in a hurry to retrieve Tu Yoming's clone. It was better to repair the 2 natal dermic weapons first. With the white tiger blade and black tortoise shield damaged, his fighting strength was greatly reduced. 2 months later, the 2 natal dermic weapons were repaired. The people of the Thousand Spirit sect and Cruel Sun Palace were still in the clear glass market. Wang Daoyuan was not in a hurry and refined more than 50 purple dragon pattern ginseng into purple dragon patterned pills. A month later, the purple dragon patterned pills were refined. More than 180 pills were produced from the 55 purple dragon pattern ginseng. The success rate was more than 30%, but less than 40%. However, the last few batches of pills produced 4 pills. In this month, the people of the Thousand Spirit sect and Cruel Sun Palace finally left. Perfected being Qi Yuan had sent Tu Yuming many messages, asking him to return. Tu Yuming had not returned for 3 months and was determined not to return to the Cruel Sun Palace. There was no point in waiting any longer. As soon as the people from the 2 sects left, the Nether Sea Immortal brought Luo Hongming out of the clear glass market and returned to the Underworld sect. Zhou Qi and Lu Jinhui did not return to the Netherworld sect. Instead, they headed to the Wanshuan market in the southern part of Qingli County. Needless to say, their purpose was to prevent Tu Yuming from escaping back to the territory of the Cruel Sun Palace. As for Shanbei, even if the Ghost sect wanted to besiege him, they were powerless. However, to return to the Crescent Sun Palace from the north of the mountain, they had to cross the Wild Goose Mountain. There were many demonic beasts in Mount Huiyan, which was north of the Cruel Sun Palace's territory. Furthermore, the Cruel Sun Palace had yet to reach an agreement with the Yao race. Going back from there was also a slim chance of survival. Wang Daoyuan continued his seclusion at the Jade Spring Peak and only came out after a month. He rode his sword straight to the 100 Rivers Lake. He didn't stop at the 100 Rivers Lake. Instead, he flew over from the Green Willow region and headed east. There were many people from the Netherworld sect in the Oasis Willow region. Wang Daoyuan was telling these spies that he was going to find Tu Yuming for revenge. Within an underground stone room in the Oasis Willow region, several Zifu disciples were gathered together. A young Zifu disciple said angrily, "That brat of the Wang clan is too arrogant. He caused us to lose our fortune. He knows that we are here, but he still dares to swagger over us. How about we take advantage of the fact that he is alone in the Heavenchopper mountain range and go kill him?" Shi Zhenbang shook his head. "You are still young and impetuous. That fortune wasn't ours to begin with. Whoever has the ability can take it. We don't have that ability." If Wang Daoyuan didn't spread the news, would you have been able to enter True Lord 100 Spirit's estate? Wang Daoyuan still cares about His Highness and hasn't spread the news about us. Now that he's flying directly over our heads, he might have the intention of covering for us. The Wang clan isn't necessarily our enemy. Wang Daoyuan doesn't like the Sixth Prince's bloodline, after all. We are His Highness people. Acknowledging the Sixth Prince as emperor is just a temporary measure. The Sixth Prince isn't material for great things. Sooner or later, His Highness will rise to prominence. The Wang clan didn't let down the imperial family. In the past, they resisted for a longer time than our Shi clan and paid an even greater price. We don't have the right to look down on them. In the future, let's do our best to avoid conflict with the Wang clan. Instead, let's do our best to rope them in. The Zifu disciples all expressed their agreement. After Wang Daoyuan crossed the 100 Rivers Lake, Wang Daoyuan released over 1,000 soul-chasing bees to scout the surroundings. The matter of the soul-chasing bees had already been made clear. The myriad spirit sect didn't care, so it didn't matter if they took them out in the open. After crossing the 100 Rivers Lake, Wang Daoyuan randomly found a few places and stopped to search, as if he was looking for something. Afterwards, he arrived at Tu Yoming's hiding place. Tu Yoming had a soul-binding silk cloak and was hiding in a demonic beast cave. He wasn't discovered by any high-tier demonic beasts. Wang Daoyuan stored him back into the space within the soul pearl. His clone Li Qingxuan was already over 230 years old. His previous clones were either outside or at the end of their lifespans. Tu Yuming was temporarily in the space within the soul pearl, helping to take care of the spirit fields. After his cultivation reached the late-stage Zifu realm, he would be allowed to explore the path that the 10,000 Corpse Daoist master took to cross the heaven/mountain range. After retrieving his doppelganger, Wang Daoyuan continued to head east for more than 100 miles, pretending to investigate a few places. He didn't dare to continue east and instead headed south. In addition to storing his clone, he also had to search for a rank 3 demonic beast. The bloodfire hibiscus planted in the space within the soul pearl had already grown. A few sprouts were still useless, but the branches cut from the tree on the Treasure Cauldron Mountain could barely be used to refine the vermilion bird fan. Wang Daoyuan had his clone transplant 1 big and 3 small bloodfire hibiscus to the side of the scarlet yang true fire. After all, it was a fire attribute spirit wood, and the bloodfire hibiscus was related to the legendary hibiscus. It just so happened that the scarlet yang true fire was also related to the golden crow and the bloodfire hibiscus. The two complemented each other and continued to grow in the space of the spirit orb. In addition, there was also the egg of the scarlet feathered crow. After hatching, it could more or less display some of the effects of the golden crow. It might even transform into the real hibiscus wood and the sun true fire. There was no lack of spirit wood to refine the vermilion bird fan, but there was only 1 wood attribute natal tail feather. He had to find the other 4 as soon as possible. Although there were few rank 3 demonic beasts with natal tail feathers, there were many demonic beasts within the range of the heaven/mountain range. To refine the vermilion bird fan, there was only a requirement for the natal tail feathers attribute. The type didn't matter. He now had the windfire flying kite, and its speed could catch up to most rank 3 demonic beasts. It wouldn't be too difficult to find natal tail feathers of the 5 elements. After Wang Daoyuan flew more than 1,000 kilometers due south, he was warned by a few waves of demonic beasts. This place was only about 2,000 kilometers away from the main vein of the heaven/mountain range. Any mountain was occupied by rank 3 demonic beasts. Rank 4 demonic beasts all lived in the main vein. As long as it wasn't a golden core cultivator trespassing into the range of the heaven/mountain range, they couldn't be bothered. However, rank 3 superior grade demonic beasts were not to be trifled with. If he continued to fly along here, he might provoke a demonic beast with a bad temper. It would also be big trouble. A wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. He changed direction and flew southwest. Along the way, his luck wasn't too good. He only encountered terrestrial demonic beasts and not demonic beasts. He continued to fly southwest. After a few hours, he arrived at the Wanshuan River. At this moment, he was only about 3,000 kilometers away from the main vein of the heaven/mountain range. The Wanchuan River was indeed the largest river in Beiyuan Shuxian. It was also the only river that could cross the heaven/mountain range and flow east into the sea. This river that gathered tens of thousands of rivers was already more than 100 kilometers wide. Even though there was no wind, the river surface was still surging with waves. Occasionally, rank 3 and rank 3 aquatic demonic beasts would jump out of the water and chase each other. The river was extremely deep, and there were also many demonic beasts in the river. There were even rank 4 demonic beasts at the bottom of the river. Dragon species could also be seen occasionally. Even golden core cultivators didn't dare to go down to the bottom of the river to investigate. Ordinary people stood on the shore and looked to the other side. They couldn't see the other side at all. It was no different from looking at the sea. Chapter 432. This place was still more than 2,000 miles away from Wanchuan Market, but Wang Daoyuan ran into 3 acquaintances here. These 3 people were respectively Zhou Qi, Lu Jinhui, and Su Tingxian. They were probably sent by the sect over there to besiege and slaughter Yuming. At this time, the 3 people were currently discussing something on a mountain top. Su Tingxuan's family was near Wanchuan Market. The Su family was also considered a local bully here. Rooted in the southern part of Clearglass Prefecture for several hundred years, their relationship with the local families was intertwined. Back then, when the Wang family was powerful and prosperous, they also had a marriage alliance with the Su family. With him helping here, when mobilizing manpower and resources, it was easier to get the support of the local families. The Netherworld sect was still very lenient toward the families in the southern part of Clearglass Prefecture. After all, this place was adjacent to the Myriad Spirit sect's territory. If the local families were forced into a corner and directly submitted to the Myriad Spirit sect, the Netherworld sect would not even have time to cry. Therefore, the old families here had much better days than the Wang family in the past. Seeing acquaintances, Wang Daoyuan naturally had to go forward and greet. The 3 people had all worked together with Wang Daoyuan before. Seeing him come over, they also greeted him warmly. Zhou Qi clasped his hands and said, "What a coincidence, Steward Wang, to even be able to run into you here." Wang Daoyuan also returned the greeting with a smile and said, 3 elders are here, it's also in order to slaughter Yuming, right? Zhou Qi smiled and said, "In that case, Steward Wang is the same too." Wang Daoyuan had an appearance of lingering anger on his face. The Yuanying inheritance that was in my hands is gone, and my little life was almost lost inside. Suffering such a huge loss, how can I easily let him off? Look, I just repaired my life-bound magic artifact and entered the heavenly/mountain range to search for this kid's whereabouts. Lu Jinhui also asked, "I wonder if Steward Wang discovered anything?" Wang Daoyuan shook his head. "I really don't know where this grandson hid. I released soul-chasing bees and searched all the way from the east of Hundred Rivers Lake to this Wanchuan riverside, but I couldn't find any traces of him either. Elders, have you discovered anything?" Su Tingxian shook his head and said with a sigh, "The 3 of us recruited many people in Wanchuan Market to monitor the river and enter the heavenly/mountain range to investigate. After a few months, we still haven't found any trace of him." The 3 of them were helpless. They stayed in the heaven/mountain range all day long and had to be on guard against the attacks of demonic beasts at all times. They had no time to cultivate at all. Wang Daoyuan was naturally indifferent. The one they wanted to capture was Tu Yuming. What did that have to do with him? He asked the 3 of them, "Dao Yu, have you found any dragon seeds here? I want to refine the azure dragon pearl, but this thing needs a pseudo-dragon pearl. Since I've come to the Wanchuan River, I thought I might as well look for it." The 3 of them shook their heads. Su Tingxian advised, "Although there are dragon species appearing in the lower reaches of the Wanchuan River, it's not a regular pattern. Sometimes it would be seen once in a few years, and sometimes it would be seen once in a few hundred years. If he wanted to find the dragon seed here, he would have to go to the bottom of the river. Even Jindan cultivators wouldn't dare to go down to the bottom of this river, much less us Zifu disciples. Manager Wang is still too impatient. You've only established your Violet Palace for a few years, but you've already refined 2 life-bound magic artifacts. In my opinion, you should focus on your cultivation. You can put your life-bound magic artifacts aside first. Zhou Qi also agreed, Manager Su is right. You're only about 140 years old. It's a good time to improve your cultivation. It's never too late to refine your life-bound magic artifacts. Don't waste too much of your cultivation time on them. You might think that cultivation is easy now, but it won't be so easy to improve your cultivation after you're 300 years old. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your reminder. I'll focus on my cultivation in the future and won't spend too much time on my life-bound magic artifacts. I'll search along the north bank of the Wanchuan River. If I can find any traces of the dragon seed, I'll investigate it thoroughly. If I can't find it, I'll return to my family to cultivate. Elders, I won't keep you company." After bidding farewell to the three of them, Wang Daoyuan flew east on his sword. As the largest river in Beiyuan Shouxian, the Wanchuan River gathered the spiritual energy of countless spirit springs and water spirit veins. Where there were no spirit veins, the water in the river was comparable to the water of a middle-low-grade Tier 2 spirit spring. If it weren't for the harassment of aquatic demon beasts, any place on the banks of the Wanchuan River could be used as the foundation of a foundation establishment family. There was no lack of spirit veins at the bottom of the river. Tier 2 water spirit veins were as plentiful as the hairs on an ox, and Tier 3 spirit veins were not rare either. In this section of the river east of the Wanchuan market, there was a middle-grade Tier 4 water spirit vein at the bottom of the river. There were definitely many water attribute demon beasts in this place. It was hard to say if he could find the dragon seed, but it shouldn't be difficult to find water attribute demon beasts. After traveling more than 1,000 miles to the east, Tier 3 demon beasts were already very common. If he continued to fly on his sword, it would be easy to be attacked by a group of demon beasts. He put away his flying sword, put on the soul-binding silk cloak, and found a hidden place to hide. He released the soul-chasing bees to search for water attribute demon beasts nearby. There were many water attribute demon beasts, but it wasn't easy to find one with a life-bound feather. This place was less than 2,000 miles away from the sky/mountain range and close to the Wanchuan River. There were many demon beasts and demon beasts. Every time he released the soul-chasing bees, only 1 out of 10 would return. In more than a month, he had lost thousands of soul-chasing bees. Fortunately, the queen bee reproduced quickly and had the time acceleration function of the spirit pearl space. Losing a few hundred soul-chasing bees a day wouldn't cause a shortage of soul-chasing bees. However, these soul-chasing bees didn't die in vain. Wang Daoyuan had some understanding of the distribution of demon beasts in the sky/mountain range on the north bank of the Wanchuan River. There was no way to investigate the situation within 1,000 miles of the sky/mountain range's main vein. None of the soul-chasing bees that entered returned alive. There were many demon beasts between 1,000 to 2,000 miles away from the main vein. The spirit chi here was also more abundant. A Tier 3 demon beast could satisfy its cultivation needs by occupying a territory of a few miles. Therefore, all kinds of demon beasts were very concentrated. More than 1,700 miles away from the sky/mountain range's main vein on the north bank of the Wanchuan River, there was a forest with a radius of 200 miles. There were dozens of Tier 3 demon beasts living in the forest, and more than 10 of them were dark feather storks. Dark feather storks were Tier 3 water attribute demon beasts. The highest cultivation level they could reach was Tier 3 upper grade. They liked to hunt all kinds of spirit fish. It was normal for such demon beasts to exist on both banks of the Wanchuan River. According to the soul-chasing bees report, a few of the dark feather storks were underage Tier 2 demon beasts. There were a total of 7 adult Tier 3 demon beasts. One of them was a Tier 3 middle-grade demon beast. The soul-chasing bees' intelligence was lower than demon beasts of the same rank. They couldn't clearly describe the characteristics of this Tier 3 middle-grade dark feather stork. According to their description, this Tier 3 middle-grade dark feather stork was different from the others. It had a feather on its tail that was much longer than the other tail feathers. Moreover, this tail feather had an extremely strong spirit energy fluctuation. It seemed that this dark feather stork had a life feather. He recalled all the soul-chasing bees and used the aura concealing art to conceal his presence. He walked towards the east. Soon, he arrived near the place where the dark feather storks were gathered. When he was about 20 miles away from the dark feather storks, he used his divine sense to carefully observe the Tier 3 middle-grade dark feather stork. This dark feather stork wasn't big. Its wingspan was less than 20 feet, and its tail feather was only about a foot long. However, there was one tail feather that was close to 3 feet long. It contained a large amount of water attribute spirit energy. This tail feather was indeed a life feather. The divine sense of a demon beast was far inferior to that of a human cultivator. At this distance, Wang Daoyuan could use his divine sense to detect the dark feather stork, but the dark feather stork wouldn't be able to sense his presence. Moreover, these dark feather storks were just a group of the same species. They didn't have much of a relationship with each other. However, if he wanted to obtain the life feather, he had to take down this Tier 3 middle-grade dark feather stork. There were dozens of Tier 3 demon beasts nearby. Once he made a move, he would definitely be surrounded. Even if it was a one-on-one battle, Wang Daoyuan would have to put in a lot of effort to take down a Tier 3 middle-grade demon beast with a life feather without damaging its life feather. If he wanted to obtain the life feather under the siege of dozens of Tier 3 demon beasts, he would have to rely on his wits. Chapter 433. Wang Daoyuan hid nearby and observed the movements of the rank 3 dark feather stork. Demonic beasts weren't like humans who could cultivate all kinds of cultivation techniques. Rank 1 demonic beasts could only absorb spiritual energy by eating spiritual items or staying in places with dense spiritual energy. On the other hand, rank 2 demonic beasts could also absorb spiritual energy from heaven and earth. Some rank 2 demonic beasts with high-grade bloodlines could even increase their cultivation by developing their bloodline. Rank 3 demonic beasts already had high intelligence and generally knew simple breathing techniques that were similar to the basic cultivation techniques of human cultivators. However, this breathing technique couldn't be compared to the cultivation techniques of human cultivators in the Violet Palace realm. Apart from a few descendants of divine beasts that could increase their cultivation speed by developing their bloodline, there were no other demonic beasts. The cultivation speed of other demonic beasts couldn't be compared to humans. Even rank 4 demonic beasts like the bloodthirsty ash wolf had a simple cultivation technique. Rank 3 demonic beasts mainly relied on eating spiritual items to increase their cultivation. Although this rank 3 dark feather stork had a natal feather, it definitely had a high-grade bloodline. However, it still couldn't increase its cultivation without consuming spiritual items, so it was inevitable that it would leave the group to hunt for food. Wang Daoyuan hid here for 5 to 6 days and discovered that the dark feather stork would go to the Myriad Rivers River to hunt for food every morning. The section of the river where it hunted for food didn't change much. It had always been on the north bank, near the mouth of a small stream that flowed into the Myriad Rivers River. He might be surrounded if he tried to deal with it in the forest, but it was much safer in the river. When it hunted for food, the demonic beasts were scattered and couldn't provide support quickly. Although it would alarm the demonic beasts in the water, their speed wasn't very good. It might be difficult to get rid of the demonic beasts, but it was effortless to get rid of the aquatic demonic beasts. When the sky was about to brighten, Wang Daoyuan quietly went into the water and laid an ambush at the mouth of the river. He used his spiritual sense to control a few spiritual fish that the dark feather stork loved to eat and had them swim near the ambush location. The sky quickly brightened and the tall sky-chopping mountain range covered the sun. However, the clouds in the sky were already golden from the sunlight. There was a layer of mist floating on the surface of the river. A clump of seaweed swayed in the water and a few small fish swam between the seaweed. Under the seaweed, Wang Daoyuan was hiding a sinister smile on his face. As expected, this level 3 middle-grade dark feather stork came to the mouth of the river to look for food as usual. It saw several fish swimming near the place where Wang Daoyuan was lying in ambush and slowly approached. Wang Daoyuan had the Forbidden God cloak and was using the spirit concealment art. It was almost impossible for a demon bird like the dark feather stork, which did not specialize in detection, to discover him. Soon, the black feather stork was only 2 to 3 zhang away from Wang Daoyuan. Now was not the time to make a move. The water by the shore was shallow, and only half of the ink feather stork's long legs were covered by the water. If he were to make a move now, the ink feather stork would be able to fly away with a flap of its wings. It was very difficult to catch a demonic bird in the air. There was also the possibility of being surrounded by dozens of demonic birds. Wang Daoyuan controlled the small fishes and made them continue to escape into the deep water. How could the ink feather stork let the delicacy in front of it escape? He hurriedly took a few steps into the deep water. At this time, he had already reached Wang Daoyuan's side. In order to hide, Wang Daoyuan did not have time to use his spirit energy. He reached out and grabbed the ink feather stork's long legs. With Wang Daoyuan's physical strength, he was still far from being able to deal with large land and water demonic beasts. But bullying these demonic birds did not take much effort. The ink feather stork flapped its wings and wanted to escape. Wang Daoyuan used the water dragon technique to entangle it. The ink feather stork's slender beak emitted intense spirit energy waves as it pecked at Wang Daoyuan's head. Wang Daoyuan summoned the black tortoise shield to protect his head. Water attribute demonic birds were similar to water attribute cultivators. Their attack power was not too strong, and the black tortoise shield easily blocked the attack. The ink feather stork flapped its wings and the water surged. Huge waves crashed towards Wang Daoyuan, and the water dragon was also scattered by its wings. These waves were not to be underestimated. If he was hit by them, he would probably be seriously injured. At this moment, whirlpools appeared under the water and he was about to be sucked in. Wang Daoyuan had indeed underestimated the ink feather stork. Although the Wang clan's water dragon technique was very suitable for fighting in water, his half-baked water dragon technique was not as good as the ink feather stork in water. If he continued to waste time and alerted the nearby demonic birds and water demonic beasts, he would be in danger. He summoned the soul-extinguishing bell and rang it beside the ink feather stork. After 5 rings, the ink feather stork lost its ability to resist. The battle and the bell had alerted the surrounding demonic birds and water demonic beasts. Wang Daoyuan did not have the time to preserve its soul. He summoned the white tiger blade and beheaded it. He put the ink feather stork's corpse into the spirit pearl space and handed it over to his clone to deal with. Tu Yuming was also a 3rd-tier lower-grade refiner, and his alchemy level was also 2nd-tier middle-grade. The Cruel Sun Palace focused on refining. Body refinement cultivators had strong bodies and were suitable for forging. It was very common for them to practice refining. For a 3rd-tier lower-grade refiner, dealing with the ink feather stork's corpse was not a problem at all. He placed the ink feather stork's life origin feather beside the Gui water death flame and slowly nourished it. The vermilion bird fan was used to control these spiritual flames. It was very suitable to use the spiritual flames to nourish the refining materials. Of the other parts, only the feather and demonic core had some value. The demonic bird's body was weak, and the value of refining it was not high. Wang Daoyuan wanted to use the cloud escape to escape in the water. However, the water demonic beasts had already surrounded him. If he continued to stay in the water, he would soon be surrounded. He summoned the wind fire flying kite, injected spiritual energy into it and flew west. When he just took off, there were water demonic beasts leaping out of the water, wanting to swallow him in one bite. The demonic birds nearby were alerted by him and chased after him. Fortunately, the wind fire flying kite was fast, and water attribute demonic birds were not known for their speed. After the demonic birds chased for more than 1,000 miles, they saw that they could not catch up and dispersed. However, the commotion caused by this caused Zhou Qi and the other 2 who were searching for Tu Yuming to jump in fright. In order to avoid becoming the target of the demonic bird's anger, they immediately fled in other directions. After shaking off the demonic birds, Wang Daoyuan met 3 more people. Zhou Qi immediately went forward and asked, "Steward Wang, what happened? How did you provoke such a large group of demonic birds?" Zhou Qi was a little angry. He was almost targeted by the demonic birds attracted by Wang Daoyuan. Anyone would be angry. They did not have a flying magic weapon like the wind-fire flying kite that could compete with the demonic birds in speed. Once targeted, there was almost no hope of escaping. Wang Daoyuan did not take the previous danger seriously and said with a smile, "When I was searching for the dragon seed, I provoked a demonic bird. As a result, a large group of demonic birds chased after me. If not for the flying magic weapon that Master gave me, I'm afraid I would have died here." Su Tingxian advised, "It's better not to search for the dragon seed here. I heard that the dragon seed appears in the hidden dragon river of the Zhou country every few decades. There are not as many demonic beasts there as here, so it's safer. You can go there and try your luck. It's better than looking for a needle in a haystack. This time, you only provoked a group of demonic birds. If it gets out of hand, it will provoke a beast tide. I'm afraid the entire Qingli County will suffer. If the sect master and the grand elders blame us, I'm afraid the Wang family will not be able to bear it." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your reminder, Steward Su. I will not come here to try my luck again in the future. The demonic beasts and demonic birds in the Wanchuan River are indeed too crazy." Along the way, there were hundreds of rank 3 demonic beasts and demonic birds that wanted to attack me. In the future, if I want to find materials for refining weapons and pills, I will try my best to avoid this place. Now that this matter is over, I will not stay any longer and will return to the family. Goodbye. After bidding farewell to the 3 people, Wang Daoyuan rode the wind-fire flying kite in the north direction. At a speed of more than 5,000 miles per hour, he returned to the Jade Spring Peak in 4 to 5 hours. Not long after arriving at the Jade Spring Peak, he received a message from Zhou Wan. The content of the message was also very simple. There were only 5 words. "What about your promise?" Chapter 434. Seeing Zhou Wan's letter, Wang Daoyuan was a little confused. He really couldn't remember what promise he made to Zhou Wan. He definitely couldn't send a letter to ask. Even if he forgot, he had to pretend that he didn't. He only sent a letter to Zhou Wan, saying that he would go to Guiyan Market in a few days. After staying at Jade Spring Peak for 2 days, he went to Jade Pine Mountain. Then, he quietly slipped away from Jade Pine Mountain and went to Guiyan Market's Blood Shadow Branch. After entering Zhou Wan's cave, he only heard the sound of Guqin coming from the boudoir. After Wang Daoyuan reincarnated to Beiyuan Xiuxian, he hadn't heard the sound of Guqin for more than 100 years. When the Zhao family was still around, they only liked military music and didn't care about Guqin. The Zhou nation liked music and etiquette. As a distant member of the Zhou imperial family, Zhou Wan knew how to play the Guqin. However, this song was a little familiar. It was very similar to the ancient song of Wuxia in his previous life, High Mountain and Flowing Water. He always felt that the world Beiyuan Xiuxian was in was related to the world in his previous life. Even the words were very similar. The words in this world were a little similar to the Xiaozhuan of Wuxia in his previous life, but they were simplified. It wouldn't be strange if the instruments were similar. After all, the principles of similar instruments were similar. However, it was strange that this song was so similar. If the 2 worlds weren't related, it was unlikely that this would happen. Wang Daoyuan quickly walked into the garden of Zhou Wan's boudoir. At this time, Zhou Wan was sitting by the spring in the garden with a Guqin in front of her. This Guqin was no different from the Fuxi-style Guqin in his previous life. He asked, "Are you playing High Mountain and Flowing Water?" Hearing this, Zhou Wan was stunned. This is a song passed down in the Zhou family. Zhao nation doesn't have any etiquette. How do you know? Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan didn't ask any more questions. Since it was passed down in the family, what could she, a distant member of the Zhou family, know? Could it be that the ancestor of the Zhou family also came from Wuxia? If he had the chance in the future, he could dig up a few ancestral tombs of the Zhou royal family and see if he could find anything. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "There are records of this song in some ancient books that I collected. Zhou Wan naturally saw that he was lying, but she didn't press the issue. Which cultivator didn't have a few secrets? Trying to get to the bottom of things would only be annoying. She grumbled, back then, you said you would help me modify my natal dermic artifact. It's been a few months since you received True Monarch 100 Spirits inheritance, but you still haven't come to fulfill your promise. Don't tell me you've forgotten. It was only then that Wang Daoyuan remembered that when he had asked her for the location of the 100 Spirits Immortals cave abode, she had promised to help him modify his natal Dharma artifact. However, of course, he could not tell the truth. He smiled and said, "Didn't I fail miserably at such an easy task? I was schemed against by Tu Yuming. Not only did he lose the inheritance that he had obtained, he was also heavily injured, and his artifact was also severely damaged. In the past few months, I've been recuperating and repairing artifacts." Zhou Wan looked at him with a smile that was not a smile and asked, "Do you think you can fool me? When the news of you being schemed against by Tu Yuming first came, I was really a little worried. Later, I collected some information about Tu Yuming and didn't believe it at all. Tu Yuming is just a brute with a little brain. You're smarter when you're asleep than when he's awake. It's more likely that you schemed against him. In a head-on battle, his strength can only be considered above average among those of the same level. He's far inferior to me and is not your opponent at all. It should be you who used a secret technique to control Tu Yuming and put on a show. However, you really do have the ability to fool so many golden core cultivators." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Hall Master is wise. You saw through this subordinate's little trick. Didn't I come to refine your natal Dharma artifact? This subordinate still has one thing I don't understand. When you were sparring with me before, you took out the Fire Divine Lightning Pearl. It sealed at least the 6th level of the Fire Divine Lightning. Does Blood Shadow have the Fire Divine Lightning magic art?" Zhou Wan replied, "It seems that you really got the spiritual fire left behind by the 100 Spirit Supreme. The power of the Red Yang real fire combined with the Fire Divine Lightning is indeed powerful. Blood Shadow does have the Fire Divine Lightning, but it's not complete. It can only be cultivated to the 6th level at most. I also cultivated it back then, but I only cultivated to the 3rd level. After that, I was pushed out of the headquarters. With Elder Su suppressing me, I couldn't exchange for the cultivation method anymore." Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was a little disappointed. It seems that this bowl of soft rice can't be eaten. Even Blood Shadow doesn't have the complete 5 elements Divine Lightning. How did Zhao family get it back then? I actually know this. I heard that Zhao family's ancestor obtained the inheritance of an ancient cultivator and obtained the complete 10th Water Divine Lightning. If you want the complete Fire Divine Lightning, you can go find some ancient cultivator's cave to try your luck." Wang Daoyuan shook his head and said, "Forget it. I still want to gather the materials to refine magic tools and find the spiritual fire. I don't have so much time to try my luck. Give me your Lifebound Magic Tools refining method. Also, give me that spell visualization diagram that can resonate with the Purple Mansion's vision. Without the visualization diagram, I don't have the ability to modify a magic tool suitable for you." Zhou Wan took out a few beast skin books and 2 jade slips. She said, "This is the Fire Phoenix Flowing Flame Sword and the Red Phoenix Divine Fire Technique. The visualization diagram of the Fire Phoenix Flowing Flame Sword will be modified according to the visualization diagram of the Red Phoenix Divine Fire Technique. During the modification of the magic tool, stay in my cave. You're not allowed to run around until the modification is complete." Wang Daoyuan smiled and asked, "A man and a woman alone in a room, that's not very good, right? It doesn't matter if I suffer a little loss. If my reputation as a gentleman is ruined, then so be it. I've never sought an undeserved reputation. But if I ruin Hall Master's reputation, then I'll have committed a great sin." His face was filled with excitement, and there wasn't the slightest bit of unwillingness. Zhou Wan glanced at him and said, "Staying in the same room? Dream on. Go to the front yard of the cave. Without my orders, you're not allowed to enter the backyard." He had no choice. Living off a woman meant that he couldn't straighten his back. In the future, he still had to rely on her to gather information, so he naturally had to listen to her. He took the beast skin books and jade slips to the front yard and began to check the contents of the 2 jade slips. However, Wang Daoyuan had also profited greatly. The fire phoenix flowing flame sword was obviously the Zhou clan's inheritance. As for the red phoenix divine fire technique, it was much better than Shizhenbang's fire phoenix. Without any effort, these 2 inheritances fell into his hands. He carefully compared the differences between the 2 visualization diagrams, then compared them with the Fire Phoenix Flowing Flame Sword's tool pattern to determine which tool pattern needed to be modified. After nearly half a year, Wang Daoyuan finally analyzed the tool pattern of the Fire Phoenix Flowing Flame Sword. The next step was to modify the tool pattern, which was the biggest problem. He didn't have the knowledge of Lei Yanjinren, who was able to successfully modify the 5 elements Devil Suppression Seal in one try and even add new functions. He could only deduce a few of the most reliable plans and try them out one by one. After spending 3 years and 5 or 6 attempts, he finally managed to refine a reliable middle-grade 3rd-tier magic tool. After Zhou Wan recognized the sword as its owner, she exchanged a few moves with Wang Daoyuan and found that there were no problems with its functions. To be able to reach this step, it was basically certain that the modification plan was correct. Zhou Wan summoned her natal magic tool and handed it to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan began to modify the Fire Phoenix Flowing Flame Sword's shape. After all, the tool pattern's appearance and materials were compatible with each other. The Fire Phoenix and the Red Phoenix were both of the Fire Phoenix clan, so the difference between them was very small. There was no need to refine it again, nor was there a need to increase the materials. Zhou Wan had already refined the Fire Phoenix Flowing Flame Sword to the point where it was connected with her mind. If she were to refine it again, all the previous results would be wasted. After a simple modification of the sword shape, Zhou Wan used her divine sense to condense part of the tool pattern. The energy expended was equivalent to repairing a damaged natal Dharma artifact. Most of the previous foundation would still be preserved and wouldn't affect the connection between the user and the natal magic tool. After the modification of the sword shape was completed, Wang Daoyuan handed the magic tool and the new refining method to Zhou Wan. Others couldn't interfere with the condensation of the tool pattern, only the owner of the magic tool could do it. Chapter 435. Zhou Wan had to modify some of the patterns on her lifebound magic artifact and get used to it again. She would need at least a few months. Wang Daoyuan naturally couldn't stay idle either. He consumed a purple rhythm pill and meditated in the front courtyard of Zhou Wan's abode. Guoyan Market's low-grade 3rd-tier attributeless spirit vein was more suitable for Wang Daoyuan's cultivation than Jade Spring Peak's high-grade 3rd-tier water attribute spirit vein. Half a year later, the cry of a Wan and a phoenix could be heard from the rear courtyard of Zhou Wan's abode. Soon after, Zhou Wan's arrogant voice could be heard. "Brat surnamed Wang, come and eat this hall master's sword." Wang Daoyuan woke up from his meditative state and laughed. 2 Zifu realm cultivators are sparring. "Lord Hall Master, do you not want your abode anymore?" Zhou Wan replied, "Cut the crap. I was unconvinced when I lost to you last time. Now that my life-bound magic artifact is able to resonate with my Zifu realm, I've vented my anger. There's also a stone room below the abode that specializes in practicing magic. It's set up with a high-grade 3rd-tier formation. With your ability, you won't be able to break it." Wang Daoyuan also wanted to experience more of the Scarlet Wan's charm. It would be of great help to him in comprehending the charm of the 5 elements divine beast. He stood up and walked into the rear courtyard of the abode. Zhou Wan brought him to the side of a rockery in the garden. The entrance to the stone room for practicing magic was within this rockery. Wang Daoyuan followed Zhou Wan down the cave entrance. Soon, they arrived at an underground space that was over 1,000 feet in diameter and over 100 feet in height. Wang Daoyuan laughed. "Lord Hall Master, I'll condense the phantom of the 5 elements devil subduing seal. You can use your life-bound magic artifact to attack it. The attack of an ordinary middle-stage Zifu realm cultivator can only cause the phantom to tremble slightly." Zhou Wan was somewhat unconvinced. My life-bound magic artifact resonates with the Zifu realm phenomenon. With the addition of the Scarlet Wand's charm, my strength is comparable to an ordinary late-stage Zifu realm cultivator. Just don't blame me for bullying the weak. Wang Daoyuan condensed the phantoms of 5 magical artifacts and combined the 5 elements into one to form the 5 elemental demon suppression seal. Then, the white tiger blade and the black tortoise shield merged into it. The great seal's shadow did not lock onto its target, but Zhou Wan felt a great deterrent force. She asked, "There's something wrong with your 5 elements devil-slaying seal. It's very different from the sacrificial refining method that Blood Shadow stole from the underworld sect." The Golden Core elders of the Blood Shadow also deduced the sacrificial refining method. Logically speaking, with your cultivation at the initial stage of the Violet Palace realm, it's impossible for you to exert such formidable might. Furthermore, only when all 5 Dharma artifacts were complete could the Dharma artifacts be fused into the shadow. You only have 2 artifacts, so you can fuse them together. Did you improve the sacrificial refining method? Wang Daoyuan replied, "This 5 elements devil-subduing seal was created by a golden core cultivator. How would I have the ability to improve it? I also have to thank you for your reminder. The sacrificial refining method that the underworld sect kept should have been artificially deleted by someone and hidden some underhanded tricks, so its might was naturally greatly reduced. When I went to the treasured Cauldron Mountain, I asked Master for help to restore this sacrificial refining method. A complete sacrificial refining method would naturally be much more powerful. Lord Hallmaster, please make your move." Zhou Wan took out her natal magic artifact. This long sword had been modified, and the embossment and artifact's original form had changed from a fire phoenix to a scarlet one. She held the sword with both hands, and fire attribute spiritual power surged all over her body. Then, the scarlet one embossment on the longsword seemed to come alive, and a scarlet one image formed by flames flew out of the embossment. Zhou Wan's glabella shone with purple light and emitted the cry of a wan bird. The scarlet one image also cried out and pounced towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan controlled the devil-slaying seal and released a suppressive force towards the scarlet one image. The scarlet one let out a mournful cry as its aura was suppressed, and the might of its flames was greatly reduced. Soon, the scarlet one pounced onto the devil-slaying seal. The seal's image trembled violently, but it did not show any signs of collapsing. The scarlet one image was reduced to nothing under the seal's suppression. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Lord Hallmaster, do you still want to continue the competition?" Zhou Wan was completely defeated in the competition, and she snorted coldly. "No. You have 2 magic artifacts, and I only have the scarlet one flowing flame sword. You're bullying me with numbers, and it's an unfair victory." Wang Daoyuan naturally would not argue with her. He put away his magic artifact and smiled. "Lord Hallmaster is right. If I only use the white tiger blade, I'm definitely not your opponent. You've already comprehended the Scarlet Wand's charm, and I'm still far from it. I would like to ask for your guidance on the technique of comprehending a divine beast's charm." After hearing Wang Daoyuan's flattery, Zhou Wan's mood improved. "You're quite sensible. If we're talking about comprehending a divine beast's charm, I'm number 1 among the blood wolves. In less than 10 years after I established my Violet Palace, I comprehended the Scarlet Wand's charm. Those cultivators with heavenly spiritual roots and spirit bodies are also incomparable to me. I even combined the experiences of my predecessors and created a secret technique. But I can't possibly take out such an important thing for free, right?" Wang Daoyuan was already used to her money-grubbing nature. "Just tell me what you want. If I can afford it, I won't refuse." Zhou Wan nodded. She was very satisfied with Wang Daoyuan's attitude. Straightforward. "I only want 30, no, 50 purple rhyme pills. You have the 5 elements divine beast's image. Once you learn this secret technique, you'll quickly comprehend the charm of the 5 elements divine beast. At that time, the power of your 5 elements devil-subduing seal will greatly increase. Maybe when you reach the late-stage Violet Palace realm, you'll be able to kill early-stage Golden Core cultivators. With such great benefits, What are 50 purple rhyme pills? Don't tell me you don't have any purple rhyme pills. You secretly ate a few before. Wang Daoyuan glanced at her. What a money grubber. You weren't so eloquent before. Why do you sound like a profiteer now? Then, he took out 5 jade pill bottles. Each bottle contained 10 purple rhyme pills. I obtained some purple rhyme dragon pattern ginseng from the 100 Spirits True Monarch's herb garden and refined them into purple rhyme pills. You helped me spread the news for free. Now that I've made a fortune, I naturally can't forget about the hall master. Zhou Wan took the pill bottle and handed a jade slip to Wang Daoyuan. She smiled and said, "Didn't I learn this glib tongue from you? These past few years, I've often chatted with you. No one else dares to talk to me." After that, Wang Daoyuan continued to stay in Zhou Wan's cave residence. It was better to have Zhou Wan's guidance if he wanted to comprehend the divine beast's charm. Wang Daoyuan was currently refining the white tiger blade. If he could comprehend the divine charm of the white tiger blade, his offensive power would increase greatly. This secret technique that Zhou Wan created could be considered a special Violet Palace resonance technique. By using the Violet Palace anomaly to resonate with magic tools or spells, the Violet Palace anomaly would be constantly activated. When the Violet Palace anomaly resonated, it would reveal a trace of divine power. However, the Violet Palace resonance consumed a lot of spiritual sense. Although it was beneficial to comprehend the divine charm, it consumed a lot of spiritual sense and put a lot of pressure on the soul. Zhou Wan's secret technique was special in that it could use a small amount of spiritual sense to activate the Violet Palace anomaly. This special Violet Palace resonance couldn't give the natal magic tool too much power, so it wasn't practical in battle. However, it was extremely suitable for comprehending the divine charm. Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense was strong. In addition, he had the inky jade lotus seed, so the consumption of spiritual sense wasn't much of a problem. He would use the secret technique 3 to 4 times a day. When he felt tired, he would meditate and circulate the 5-spirit immortal transformation technique to raise his cultivation level and let his soul rest. 3 years later, Wang Daoyuan used the secret technique to activate the white tiger anomaly on his Violet Palace anomaly. At this time, the white tiger blade was also stored in his sea of consciousness and constantly resonated with the white tiger anomaly. The white tiger anomaly roared continuously, and the Dharma idol on the white tiger blade followed suit. After thousands of times of using the secret technique, there was finally a qualitative change. Suddenly, the white tiger anomaly's eyes emitted a dazzling light and let out a tiger roar. The soul hidden in the Violet Palace anomaly's eyes also emitted a dazzling light. Its body emitted an aura that made people afraid to look at it directly, as if it was a human-shaped tiger cub. Beside the soul, the small gray mist sword that represented the white tiger sword intent became more solid. The image of a white tiger faintly appeared on the sword drum and sword hilt. Chapter 436. After a moment, the white tiger avatar's radiance vanished, and the intimidating aura around Wang Daoyuan disappeared. Ever since he comprehended the white tiger sword intent, there had always been a murderous aura around him. Even if he could control the white tiger sword intent well, he couldn't completely hide the murderous aura. Now that he had comprehended the white tiger divine charm, the murderous aura was completely restrained. This was called, if the water doesn't boil, the boiling water won't make a sound. The higher the level, the more concealed the aura. Zhou Wan was originally cultivating, but she was awakened by the divine white tiger divine charm. Just as Wang Daoyuan's murderous aura was restrained, her scarlet Luan flowing flames sword was placed on Wang Daoyuan's shoulder. She questioned, "You lied to me that the inky jade lotus seeds were gone. You secretly ate a lot of them these past few years. How many seeds did you hide? Hand them over." Wang Daoyuan used the cloud escape and appeared behind Zhou Wan. He was a little speechless. "Why are you focusing on the problem in such a tricky way? Shouldn't the main point be that I have comprehended the white tiger divine charm?" Zhou Wan kept her magic artifact. "You comprehended the white tiger divine charm, and I contributed to it. Didn't you think of giving me some benefits?" Wang Daoyuan took out 10 lotus seeds and handed them to Zhou Wan. Thank you, Hall Master, for your guidance. Zhou Wan accepted the lotus seeds with satisfaction, but she still said with disdain, that's all? Wang Daoyuan replied, you are really a money grubber. When I am out traveling, I will need the lotus seeds to quickly recover my divine sense. I will only give you this much for now. Zhou Wan's smile disappeared. Are you leaving again? Wang Daoyuan shook his head. I have nothing to do now. I need to cultivate to the middle stage of the Zifu realm before traveling to the southern wasteland to search for the spirit fire and the earth essence. Before I break through to the middle stage of the Zifu realm, I can cultivate anywhere. I feel that this place is not bad. The non-elemental spirit vein is very suitable for a penta-spirit vein cultivator like me. There is also a peerless beauty that is pleasing to the eye. I am not willing to leave. Lord Hall Master, now that I have comprehended the White Tiger's divine charm, do you want to spar with me again? A smile appeared on Zhou Wan's face once again. I don't like fighting, unlike a brute like you. I'm about to break through to the late Zifu disciple level as well. When the time comes, I'll teach you a good lesson. Wang Daoyuan had a look of disdain on his face, but Zhou Wan pretended not to see it. She arrogantly left the front courtyard and returned to her boudoir. 7 years later, a violent fluctuation of spiritual energy came from Zhou Wan's boudoir. Wisps of purple light came out from the second door. Wang Daoyuan was sitting cross-legged in the front yard of Zhou Wan's immortal cave. His body was also flickering with purple light. It had already been over 30 years since he'd established his violet palace. Although he hadn't put all his energy into increasing his cultivation, he hadn't given up on cultivating either. He had eaten nearly 100 purple rhythm pills, and his cultivation had reached the point of breaking through. A moment later, an extremely savage voice came from the backyard. Rat surnamed Wang, see how this great ant will teach you a lesson. After saying that, Zhou Wan used her divine sense to check the front courtyard. She found that Wang Daoyuan's spiritual energy fluctuations were getting stronger and stronger. Knowing that he was about to break through, she restrained her aura and waited on the side. After a quarter of an hour, Wang Daoyuan's spiritual energy fluctuations reached the peak. The purple light also flashed. He let out a long breath and asked, who was the one who wanted to teach me a lesson? Zhou Wan coldly snorted. You didn't break through earlier or later. You just had to break through now. Wang Daoyuan took out a bottle of medicinal pills and said with a smile, when you were in seclusion, I refined some face-retaining pills. I don't know if Lord Hall Master is interested. The face-retaining pill was a second-rank medicinal pill. It had no use for cultivation. Just one pill could guarantee that one's appearance wouldn't change for 50 years. Upon hearing the face-retaining pill, Zhou Wan's eyes lit up. Her gloominess of not being able to teach Wang Daoyuan a lesson just now was swept away. She immediately snatched the pill bottle, poured out a medicinal pill, and carefully observed it. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, you're a Zifu cultivator. Do you need to observe medicinal pills like this? Zhou Wan's face was full of joy. She said, without this face-retaining pill, I still have to consume true essence to maintain my appearance. It affects my cultivation too much. With the face-retaining pill, I can save a lot of spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan had a helpless expression. Your cultivation speed is affected here, and you still have the mind to waste true essence to maintain your appearance? Just as he was speaking, Zhou Wan put a face-retaining pill into his mouth. What do you know? The importance of appearance is no less than cultivation base. Lest you use a fake medicinal pill to trick me, you eat one first. Right, many of the face-retaining pill's spiritual herbs are almost extinct. Where did you get them? Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, previously in the 100 Spirits Immortals abode, I excavated several dozen mu of land. There just so happened to be the spiritual herbs needed for the face-retaining pill. The spiritual herbs needed for the face-retaining pill were indeed picked out from the land. The land that was excavated back then had long been cleaned up. He really did obtain quite a few good things. Apart from the face-retaining pills spiritual herbs, there were also rank 2 spiritual grains, yellow bud millet, and jade marrow rice. The 3 mu of spiritual grains in Wang Daoyuan's spiritual pearl space had all been replaced with yellow bud millet. Jade marrow rice required spiritual spring water. It could barely be grown in the spiritual pearl space, but the harvest was not ideal. The clan's Jade Spring Peak, spiritual spring abode, and the 5 elements secret realm all had spiritual springs. It was quite good to grow jade marrow rice. This thing was very beneficial to foundation establishment cultivators. Qi condensation cultivators could even increase their cultivation if they ate it. Its effects were not much worse than spirit-gathering pills. It also did not have pill toxins. In Wang Daoyuan's storage bag, a communication jade talisman emitted waves of spiritual energy. He took out the jade talisman and checked it. Then, he took out a few storage bags and 5 pill bottles and handed them to Zhou Wan, saying, "There are some matters at the clan that I need to deal with. After that, I will head to the southern wasteland to search for spiritual fire. It will probably be a long time before I come back. These are spiritual wine, dried meat, and pine nuts. There are 50 purple rhythm pills in this pill bottle. Quickly form your golden core. If you want to teach me a lesson, your current strength is not enough." Zhou Wan took the storage bag and pill bottles and nodded, "Wait until I form my golden core, then I will teach you a good lesson. When I was young, I lived in the Blood Shadow headquarters and often went in and out of the southern wasteland. The degree of danger there is no less than the heaven/mountain range. You must be careful." Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "Don't worry, I started to roam the heaven/mountain range when I was 20 years old. Being chased by demonic beasts is a common thing. Besides, the 5 elements devil-subduing seal is the nemesis of fiendish cultivators and demons. Fiendish cultivators below the golden core can't do anything to me. I won't run directly to the southern wasteland. Midway, I will pass by the treasure cauldron mountain and ask for some life-saving things from Master. Lord Hall Master, take care. I will take my leave." He left returning Wild Goose Market and circled to Jade Song Mountain before returning to Jade Spring Peak. Once he returned to Jade Spring Peak, he went straight to the executive hall. Jianghu and third brother were both here handling the clan's affairs. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Third brother, what urgent matter made me come back?" Wang Daocheng put down the jade slip in his hand and answered, "It's Yang Yulin who wants to open up his purple mansion. The Yang family's Giantwood Peak is too close to the heaven/mountain range." Recently, the rank 3 demonic beasts have been more active near the 100 Rivers Lake. An ancestor Yang is already at the end of his rope. His spiritual power is already unstable, and his vitality is declining. If Yang Yulin attracts a rank 3 demonic beast when he opens up his purple mansion, he also doesn't have the confidence to take it down. Although Giantwood Peak has a rank 3 array formation protecting it, it will inevitably disturb Yang Yulin. Therefore, he wants you to go to Giantwood Peak to stand guard for Yang Yulin. I thought it was something big. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "Guarding is just a small matter. Who knows, I might even be able to kill a few more rank 3 demonic beasts. Is there anything in the clan that needs me to handle? If there isn't, I will go to Giantwood Peak." Wang Daocheng shook his head lightly. "The daily affairs of the clan can be handled by Jianghu and me. 12th uncle and 5th granduncle can also handle the important matters. There isn't a backlog of affairs. Since that's the case, then I will go to Giantwood Peak first." Finished speaking, he rode his sword towards the southeast. Chapter 437. When Wang Daoyuan arrived at Giantwood Peak, the mountain protecting array had already been activated. The entire Giantwood Peak was covered by a red and green defensive barrier. Giantwood Peak's spirit veins were of the fire and wood attributes, so the defensive array was naturally the same. When he arrived outside the array, Yang Yong immediately instructed, "Open an entrance and let Daoyuan in." Wang Daoyuan knew in his heart that these were just polite words. Although he was half a Yang family member, he did not have much contact with them. If he really entered the array, Yang Yong would definitely not be at ease. He cupped his hands and said, "Old ancestor Yang, you don't have to do this, I'll just stand guard outside the array." Yang Yong laughed, "Then I'll have to trouble Daoyuan." Wang Daoyuan took out the wind-fire flying kite and sat cross-legged on it, floating in the air 10 miles east of Giantwood Peak. After a few hours, a purple glow started to appear on Giantwood Peak, and a few Foundation Establishment loose cultivators gathered around to watch the show. These Foundation Establishment cultivators were not much of a threat, and they did not have the guts to attack the Zifu clan's main spiritual mountain. However, when they saw Wang Daoyuan floating in the air, they took the initiative to keep their distance from Giantwood Peak. Especially the east side of Giantwood Peak, there was not a single person. Very quickly, the rank 2 demonic beasts nearby were attracted over. Wang Daoyuan did not need to care about these. The Yang family's mountain protecting array was enough to kill these demonic beasts in an instant. Their intelligence was not high enough, and they directly rushed towards Giantwood Peak. Yang Yong took out a red sword, and the demonic beasts that approached were all turned into ashes. Giantwood Peak was in the northeast direction of Hundred Rivers Lake, and was only 400 to 500 miles away from the sky/mountain range. At this distance, it would definitely attract demonic beasts. 2 hours later, a group of demonic beasts started to join in the fun. However, the demonic beasts that came were all rank 2 demonic beasts. Although they would not pose any threat to Giantwood Peak, if they were left alone, the Yang family's ordinary clansmen and businesses would definitely suffer heavy losses. He was here to help, and chasing away these demonic beasts was just a small matter, so he naturally had to help to the end. Taking out the white tiger blade, the divine white tiger's aura was released. The group of rank 2 spirit beasts were so scared that their legs went limp. It was difficult for them to even stand up, so they could only lie on the ground and crawl back with difficulty. Rank 2 monster beasts were only worth a few spirit stones. Wang Daoyuan didn't care about them, and was too lazy to pay attention to them. Soon, a demonic bird with a wingspan of more than 30 meters flew over from the east. The feathers on its head were silver white, and the feathers on the other parts of its body were similar in color to black iron. This was an iron-winged golden condor, a metal-type demonic bird. When he flew closer, Wang Daoyuan took a closer look. He didn't find a natal feather, so there was no need for him to be polite. He didn't need to go through so much trouble for a third-rank lower-grade demon bird that didn't have a natal tail feather. With a wave of his hand, the white tiger blade transformed into a giant sword that was 100 feet long and slashed towards the iron-winged golden eagle. The huge sword was no longer like before, where it was just an illusory image and its appearance could not be seen clearly. Instead, it had become the white tiger blade that had been enlarged several hundred times. This was a variation of the sky-slashing sword that could only be used after one had practiced it to the point of perfection. One did not need to hold the sword in one's hand to slash, but could directly control the sword to attack. In this way, the attack range would no longer be affected by the length of the giant sword. This variation was something that only existed in the Gui Yuan sword manual. The incomplete manual that he had obtained previously, including the spells that he had obtained from Li Qingxuan's memories, did not have any records. Before he had comprehended the white tiger's charm, the white tiger's sword intent was also very shallow. The power of the sky-slashing sword was not too strong, and he did not spend time to comprehend it. Now that he had the charm, the white tiger's sword intent had also made great progress. The power of the sword cultivator's spells had also improved greatly. Now that he was using the white tiger blade to execute the sky-slashing sword, its power was enough to crush most cultivators of the same level. The iron-winged golden eagle was extremely agile and dodged the slash. However, although the white tiger blade was huge, it was not clumsy. Under Wang Daoyuan's control, it quickly changed direction and continued to chase. The iron-winged golden eagle's speed could not compare to the white tiger blade's speed, and it was quickly caught up. The giant white tiger blade slashed down, and the iron-winged golden eagle dodged to the side, avoiding its vital points. However, one of its wings was still cut off, and several sword chi entered the iron-winged golden eagle's body through the wound. The iron-winged golden eagle struggled for a few breaths of time before it died, and its corpse fell straight down. The white tiger blade caught the iron-winged golden eagle's corpse and the severed wing, and brought it back to Wang Daoyuan's side. Wang Daoyuan kept the corpse in his storage bag and continued to stare at the east. 4 hours later, the embryonic form of a purple mansion with a diameter of about 2 inches appeared on the giant wood peak, and there was no sign of a purple mansion. Yang Yulan's future path would stop at the purple mansion. The embryonic form of the purple mansion was so small, and there was no sign of a purple mansion. The hope of forming a golden core was very slim. Soon, the embryonic form of the purple mansion fell, and the purple light disappeared. Yang Yulan had successfully opened the purple mansion, and the Yang family had 2 purple mansions. However, Yang Yong had already begun to show signs of exhaustion and his spiritual power was unstable. He would pass away in a few years. The situation of 2 purple mansions could only be maintained for a few more years. The Yang family opened the array, and Wang Daoyuan also landed on the giant wood peak to express his congratulations. After chatting for a while, he bid farewell and left. He was going to leave the family and travel to the southern wasteland. He didn't know how many years it would be before he returned, and there were some things that he had to tell his family. After returning to the Jade Spring Peak, he went to the meeting hall. He took out 2 storage bags and gave them to his third brother. I'm going to leave the family and travel to the southern wasteland. These are 2 types of second-grade spiritual grains that I obtained previously. The family can plant more of them. With these, the cultivation speed of qi refining cultivators will be greatly increased. Wang Daochang received the 2 storage bags, and he was excited. These were good things that could increase the family's foundation. Soon after, Wang Daoyuan exchanged a few words with his second brother, and left the meeting hall. He went to the 12th uncle's cave residence. After seeing the 12th uncle, he handed the yin-yang purple jade to him. I'm going to travel to the southern wasteland in search of the earth essence to refine the Kirin seal. This trip will take at least 12 years, and at most a few decades. I have no use for this item, so it's better to leave it in the family. In the future, if anyone has the chance to open up the Purple Palace, they can take it out and use it. I still have a use for the Imperial Magic Pendant, so I won't keep it. The 12th uncle patted his shoulder. You've done enough for the family. It's a pity that the good things left behind by the ancestor have been used up. I can't help you now. The southern wasteland is dangerous, so be careful. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands. Ever since I left the mountain, I've spent more time in the sky beheading mountain range than in the Jade Spring Peak. No matter how dangerous the southern wasteland is, it won't surpass the sky beheading mountain range. Don't worry. After saying that, he left the 12th uncle's cave residence and went to the pill refinery hall. He had just killed a 3rd-grade demonic bird, so he couldn't waste its demonic core. After arriving at the pill refinery hall, he gathered all the 2nd-grade pill refiners. This time, he didn't refine the Foundation Establishment pill himself. Instead, he guided everyone to extract the essence of the spiritual herbs. The demonic core, dragon crouching vine, and blood jade ginseng were handed over to Wang Mingshan. After all the spiritual herbs' essences were extracted, Wang Mingshan fused them into one and condensed them into a pill. In the end, 4 Foundation Establishment pills were refined. This level wasn't high, but it was barely passable. In the future, when he wasn't in the family, there would be someone who could refine the Foundation Establishment pill. After explaining all this, Wang Daoyuan didn't go straight to the Divine Weapon Pavilion store. Instead, he went to the Fallen Dragon Ridge. This trip to the southern wasteland, he would have to deal with fiendish cultivators. Wang Daoyuan wasn't completely ignorant about fiendish cultivators. Bai Xing could barely be considered a fiendish cultivator. He cultivated the Tao of the blood demon, using the blood essence of humans or demonic beasts to cultivate. With Bai Xing on this trip, it would be much more convenient to deal with fiendish cultivators. He didn't have much lifespan left. It wouldn't be long before he could return from this trip to the southern wasteland. If his clone Bai Xing died of old age before this, the divided soul in his sea of consciousness would be gone. He sent a message to Bai Sheng, telling him to close the store, pack up all the artifacts, and meet at the Fallen Dragon Ridge. 2 days later, Bai Sheng arrived at the Fallen Dragon Ridge. Wang Daoyuan directly kept him back into the space of the spiritual pearl. Then, he rushed to the clear glass market and took the Divine Weapon Pavilion's flying boat to the Treasure Cauldron Mountain. Chapter 438. 20 days later, Wang Daoyuan arrived at the treasured Cauldron Mountain. He sent a message to Wang Daoyin, who quickly came to welcome him. The two arrived at Daoist Thunderflame's abode, where he was teaching Wang Mingting how to forge tools. Although Wang Mingting was Wang Daoyin's disciple, Daoist Thunderflame treated him as his own grandson. He didn't need Wang Daoyin's guidance in forging tools or cultivation, as he did everything himself. After arriving at Daoist Thunderflame's forging room, Wang Daoyuan bowed and said, "Disciple pays his respects to master." Daoist Thunderflame scanned him with his spiritual sense and said with a smile, "Not bad, you've reached the middle stage of the Zifu realm. With your acquired spiritual body, you won't encounter any bottlenecks until you reach a major realm. In another 60 or 70 years, you should be able to attempt to form your core. Daoyin, take Mingting away first. I have some confidential matters to discuss with Daoyuan." Wang Daoyin took Wang Mingting away, and Daoist Thunderflame said with a smile, "Your fire attribute spiritual energy fluctuation contains traces of pure Yang Qi. You should have refined the Scarlet Yang True Fire. Good lad, you're quite capable. You managed to deceive the 4 major powers of Beiyuan Shouxian, as well as 2 first-rate countries. Even I was fooled by you. I was worried that you might have been tricked by Tu Yuming, so I sent people to gather information about him. I found that he wasn't much stronger than your second brother, so I knew that you'd be fine. Now that I look at you, it's as I expected. You've come to the southern wasteland to search for the metal attribute spiritual fire and the essence of earth, right?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "I can't hide anything from you, master. I've reached the middle stage of the Zifu realm, and I've even comprehended the White Tiger's charm. I'm not at a disadvantage when fighting against ordinary late-stage Zifu realm cultivators. Therefore, I want to travel to the southern wasteland. I've come to the treasured Cauldron Mountain to see Master, and to ask Master for advice on where to find the metal attribute spiritual fire and the essence of earth. Also, I've obtained the Scarlet Feather Crow's egg in Daoist 100 Spirit's abode. Its life force is still very abundant. I've nurtured it with the Scarlet Yang True Fire for more than 10 years, but it still refused to hatch." Adept Lei Yen stroked his beard and pondered for a long time before saying, "I didn't find any records of how Adept Bai Ling obtained the Scarlet Feathered Crow back then. The Scarlet Feathered Crow was of the fire attribute, and it also had pure Yang Qi. It was not a problem to nurture it with the Scarlet Yang True Fire. However, for the past 20,000 years, the Scarlet Yang Primordial Fire could only be sustained by earth fire. This Scarlet Feathered Crow egg did not lack fire attribute spiritual energy, but it might not have enough Yang energy. You can use some spiritual items with abundant Yang Qi to supplement the Yang Qi of the Scarlet Feathered Crow egg. The blood fire hibiscus outside is not bad. In a while, you can chop off a few larger branches and extract their essence. Use it to nourish the Scarlet Feathered Crow eggs. It should be able to speed up the hatching process. As for the metal element spirit flame and the earth element essence, they are extremely rare, and I have no idea where they can be found. There were quite a few level 4 spirit veins in the southern wasteland, and the spirit chi there was much denser than in the territories of other countries. If it weren't for the violent spiritual chi, the southern wasteland would definitely be Beiyuan Shouxian's holy land for cultivation. When the time comes, you can just look for those metal and earth attribute level 4 spirit veins." Wang Daoyuan said embarrassedly, "Thank you, Master, for clearing my doubts. I don't have any experience in fighting with devil cultivators, so I came here to ask for some methods to deal with devil cultivators." Daoist Lei Yen laughed, "That's right. There's no need to beat around the bush with Master. You're not someone who knows your place. I knew that you would enter the southern wasteland sooner or later, so I've already prepared everything for you." After saying that, he took out a purple token, a level 3 upper grade soft armor, and 2 bottles of elixirs. Wang Daoyuan could not tell what this purple token was. He felt that it was a magic tool, but the engravings on it were not tool patterns, but talisman patterns. Daoist Lei Yan handed the items over to him and said with a smile, "You should be very confused about this purple token, right? This was created by one of our ancestors, and it's called the Purple Lightning Evil Punishing Token. This ancestor was proficient in refining tools and creating talismans. He combined the methods of refining tools and talisman techniques to create this item. This can be considered a special talisman. It's just that the materials used to refine it are rather precious, so it can be used multiple times to replenish spiritual energy. Activating the Purple Lightning Evil Punishing Token can release a purple lightning bolt. Its power is equivalent to an all-out attack from an early Aurus Core Stage cultivator. It can be used to deal with early Aurus Core Stage Devil cultivators and evil cultivators. Against an early Aurus Core Stage cultivator, it can at most injure him. I don't have high attainments in the Tao of Talismans, so I followed the instructions and created this nondescript item that can only be used 3 times. The difference in strength between Aurus Core Stage cultivators and Zifu Stage cultivators is huge. There are many ways to dodge this purple lightning bolt. Don't rely on the Purple Lightning Evil Punishing Token to provoke early Aurus Core Stage cultivators. This soft armor was called the Blood Fire Purple Gold Armor. It was made from the bark of the Blood Fire hibiscus tree and the silk of the demon suppressing purple gold. These 2 materials have the ability to restrain devil cultivators and evil cultivators. Devil cultivators and evil cultivators below the Aurus Core Stage can't break this armor in 1 hit. You have the Black Tortoise Shield, so you're not afraid of facing enemies head-on. However, devil cultivators specialize in sneak attacks, so you still have to be on guard. Of these 2 bottles of pills, one is Sweet Rain Jade Dew Pill, which can quickly heal injuries. The other bottle is Soul Awakening Pill, which can recover spiritual sense in half the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. You have a lot of spiritual wine and a high alcohol tolerance, so I don't need to prepare pills for you to recover spiritual energy. With these things and the Wind Fire Flying Kite. As long as you don't provoke Aurus Core Stage cultivators, you won't be in any danger. Wang Daoyuan took these things and cupped his hands. "Thank you, master." He kept the other things in his storage bag and took out the Purple Lightning Evil Punishing Token. He observed it carefully, trying to analyze the refining method. Lei Yan smiled, "Don't waste your energy. This thing requires at least a Tier 4 weapon refiner to refine. You're still far from it. When you become a Tier 4 weapon refiner, I'll naturally pass the refining method of the Purple Lightning Evil Punishing Token to you. For now, you should focus on cultivation." Wang Daoyuan stayed at the Treasure Cauldron Mountain for a few days before preparing to leave. Before leaving, he left Wang Daoyin 20 purple rhythm pills and 30 meridian shielding pills. He also left Wang Mingting some yellow bud millet and soul-chasing bee honey. That Blood Fire hibiscus was also unlucky. Wang Daoyuan chopped off a few old branches that were as thick as an adult's thigh. After that, Wang Daoyuan left the Treasure Cauldron Mountain and headed south. 2,000 miles south of the Treasure Cauldron Mountain was the border of the southern wasteland. Within 1,000 miles south of the border, the spiritual energy wasn't too violent. It was still within the acceptable range for ordinary cultivators. A slightly violent spirit chi was actually very beneficial to body refinement cultivators. Therefore, the border of the southern wasteland had become a gathering place for body refinement cultivators, forming many markets. Spiritual energy was more violent and could easily damage a cultivator's meridians. Therefore, the meridian shielding pill was extremely popular in these markets. Its price was close to the purple rhythm pill. Wang Daoyuan flew 2,000 miles south from the Treasure Cauldron Mountain and arrived at the Singing Sand Market. Further south of the Singing Sand Market was a large area where the Gobi Desert and grassland coexisted. It was called the Singing Sand Plains. Although the southern wasteland had the word wasteland in its name, it wasn't actually considered desolate. Although there were deserts in Gobi Desert, forests and lakes were not rare. Not the entire southern wasteland was like the Singing Sand Plains. Near the Singing Sand Plains, there was a large earth attribute spirit vein of the 4th level. This spirit vein stretched for thousands of miles. It was possible that it could nurture earth essence. Although the southern wasteland might not be as dangerous as the heaven/mountain range, Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to run around casually. He did as he pleased in the heaven/mountain range, which was built on the basis of familiarity. In addition, he had the soul-chasing bees to scout the way. He knew where he could go and where he couldn't. If he dared to continue running around like this in the southern wasteland, he probably wouldn't live for more than a few days. To be safe, he should stay in the Singing Sand Market for a period of time and figure out the situation of the Singing Sand Plains before exploring further. Chapter 439. This Mingsha market was formed spontaneously and wasn't organized, so the shops were very messy. Unlike other markets, only Violet Palace Realm and Foundation Establishment cultivators often walked outside the shops, and the weakest among them were late Foundation Establishment cultivators. The spiritual chi here was somewhat berserk, and those with low cultivation couldn't stay outside for long periods of time. Wang Daoyuan was dressed as a vagrant cultivator, but he didn't wear a veil or bamboo hat. In this sort of unregulated market, there were no rules, and it was very common to use spiritual sense to investigate others, so wearing a veil wasn't very meaningful. He disguised himself as a middle-aged man and swaggered into the market square. There were many late Violet Palace Realm cultivators here, and with his cultivation, he wasn't very conspicuous. As such, he didn't conceal his cultivation and converted all of the spiritual power in his body into metal and fire attributes. There weren't many mid-Violet Palace Realm cultivators with penta spiritual roots in the entire Beiyuan Shouxian, and they were too conspicuous. Currently, he mainly used magic techniques of these 2 attributes against his enemies. As long as he exposed his metal and fire attributes, it wouldn't affect his battle prowess. Wang Daoyuan cultivated the penta spirit immortal transformation art, which had the effect of tempering his body. His body wasn't weak, and the spiritual chi here couldn't cause him any harm. Instead, the greatest restriction he faced was information. After coming to this unfamiliar place, he originally wanted to find a broker to inquire about the situation, but he didn't find one. Those who could walk around outside were at least late Foundation Establishment cultivators. With such a cultivation, they could find a job wherever they went, so there was no need for them to work as a broker. There weren't any street stalls here, and all business was done in the shops. There were also formations in the shops that could warm spiritual power, so cultivators below late Foundation Establishment would find work in these shops. Without brokers and street stalls, the best way to gather information was to go to a tavern. He found a tavern called Clear River Tavern, sat down in a corner, and ordered a few common dishes and 2 jugs of wine. It was very difficult to grow spirit plants in Mingsha Plains, so the dishes he ordered were made from some demon beasts in the desert and a few spirit plants in the sand. The tavern's business was quite good, and there were over 30 tables in the main hall, with over 20 tables occupied. Wang Daoyuan ate and drank while listening to others talk. Not too long after they sat down, an early-stage Zifu disciple walked in. This person was dressed in a black close-fitting robe made of beast skin. His muscles were bulging and his face was covered with a large beard. However, the animal skin robe on his body was torn in many places, and there were several long bloodstains on his exposed skin. Some were claw marks of demonic beasts, while others seemed to have been inflicted by sharp blades. The late-stage chi refinement cultivator serving the restaurant immediately came forward to greet him. "Senior, what would you like to eat?" The bearded cultivator heroically said, "Give me all the good dishes in your restaurant and 2 jars of wine." He had just found a table and sat down when a skinny early-stage Zifu disciple next to him asked, "Dao Yu Xiang, why are you so generous today? Looking at your injuries, you must have gone hunting in the desert again, right?" The cultivator surnamed Xiang slapped the table and let out a long sigh. "I've already gotten over it. Making a living here means that there's no tomorrow. What's the point of saving spirit stones? 2 days ago, I went to Bluestone Mountain to hunt with a few old friends. I accidentally bumped into fierce sand wolves hunting and lost 2 brothers. On the way back, they were blocked by the flying sand bandits. After a bloody battle, I was the only one who managed to escape. Sigh, we're all old friends who have gone through fire and water with us for 100 or 200 years, and now they're all gone. Know-it-all, we can be considered old acquaintances. I don't have many friends left, so come and have a drink with me. The skinny cultivator laughed and said, all right, since Dao Yu Xiang wants to have a drink or two, then I'll risk my life to accompany you. It's just that what's Dao Yu going to do next? The cultivator surnamed Xiang waved his hand. Who cares about him? I'll live one day at a time. In the first place, I provoked someone I shouldn't have in the north. Now that I've run over here, I can't go back anymore. When my spirit stones run out, I'll go seek refuge with the wild sand wanderer. He has a grudge with the flying sand bandits, so maybe in the future he'll have a chance to exterminate the flying sand bandits. The two people chatted as they ate, and very quickly they were full. The other customers listened to the two people's conversation and were also discussing in low voices. Wang Daoyuan listened to the conversation between the two people and the other customers. He had a bit of understanding of the situation in Mingsha Plateau. It seems that there are already wild beasts here, and the fierce sand wolf is one of them. These guys live in the violent spiritual energy all year round. Their bodies are extremely tough, and their temperaments are savage. However, their intelligence isn't too high. And this wild sand wanderer isn't a simple character either. To be able to have the title of wanderer, there's no need to talk about his strength. At the very least, his battle prowess is at the peak of the late Zifu stage. The majority of cultivators with the title of wanderer are at the peak of the Zifu stage. Wang Daoyuan is currently able to defeat the majority of late Zifu stage cultivators if he tries his best. But among late Zifu stage cultivators, he can't be considered at the peak, so he can't get the title of wanderer. The flying sand bandits are one of the few groups of bandits that occupy Mingsha Plateau. Their methods are the most vicious. The wild sand wanderer isn't a good person either. He's gathered a group of cultivators under him, and they do business in Mingsha Plateau without any capital. They're called the Wild Sand Bandits. The Wild Sand Wanderer and the leader of the Flying Sand Bandits, the Flying Sand Wanderer, had a grudge when they were young. The two groups have always been at loggerheads. Both sides have over 10 Zifu stage cultivators, and over 100 late and peak foundation establishment stage cultivators. With this kind of strength, outside of the southern wasteland, they can be considered a considerable force. However, most of these people have offended people they can't afford to offend in the north, or they're wicked beyond redemption. Many people don't even dare to enter the Mingsha market, let alone go to the north of the southern wasteland. This Mingsha Plateau is really quite dangerous. Ferocious beasts don't matter. After killing so many demonic beasts, they don't care about ferocious beasts with low intelligence. Humans are even more frightening than ferocious beasts. If they're blocked by two groups of bandits, the trouble won't be small. The cultivator surnamed Xiang and the know-it-all walked out of the tavern one after the other. Wang Daoyuan also paid the bill and walked out. It's not easy to meet someone who's well-informed. How can he let go of such a good opportunity to inquire about information? After following the know-it-all and the cultivator surnamed Xiang, Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to send a message. Your nickname is the know-it-all. Do you want to sell information? The know-it-all looked around, looking for the person who sent the message. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, don't look, it's me. The know-it-all saw that Daoyu's cultivation was above his, so he quickly cupped his hands and said, greetings, Daoyu. It's not suitable to talk about business in public. Please come to my store for a chat. Wang Daoyuan nodded. Even if this person doesn't have good intentions, an early-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivator can't do anything to him when he's on high alert. Soon, the two of them arrived in front of an ordinary store. The signboard hanging on the door had the words, the know-it-all, written on it. After entering the store, the know-it-all closed the door and asked Wang Daoyuan to sit down. After the two of them sat down, the know-it-all smiled and said, I'm Yuan Chen. Because I'm good at inquiring about information, I got the nickname of the know-it-all. After establishing the Violet Palace Realm, I opened a store here that specializes in the business of buying and selling information. I wonder what information Dao Yu is looking for. As long as it's related to Mingsha Plains, I know a thing or two. Wang Daoyuan replied, this is my first time here. What information does Dao Yu think I need? Yuan Shen had been in the information business for many years, so he naturally knew what information different people were interested in. He immediately took out a beast skin and a few jade slips and handed them to Wang Daoyuan. Dao Yuzhou, these are the maps of the terrain, ferocious beasts, and spiritual items that have been explored in Mingsha Plains. These jade slips record the areas of influence of the few bandit groups in Mingsha Plains, as well as the distribution of the various forces in Mingsha Market. Dao Yu should be interested in this information, right? Wang Daoyuan nodded. This is indeed the information I want to know. Give me a price. Yuan Shen smiled and said, this information can be obtained by staying in any tavern for 1 or 2 months. 300 spirit stones should be enough. I hope that Dao Yu can visit my store more in the future. Chapter 440. Wang Daoyuan paid the spirit stones and left Yuan Chen's shop. He kept the jade slip and beast skin in the space of the spirit pearl and handed it over to his clone. In this singing sand market, the most reliable inn and restaurant was the Clear River House. The owner of the Clear River Tavern was a late-stage Zifu realm cultivator. There were no rumors of him killing his customers. Wang Daoyuan booked a room in the Clear River Tavern. No matter what, he had to have a place to cultivate. In the space of the spirit pearl, Tu Yuming had already finished processing the blood fire hibiscus branch that Wang Daoyuan cut down. The essence was also used to nurture the scarlet-feathered crow egg. Lei Yan's method was indeed effective. The situation of the scarlet-feathered crow egg had indeed changed. Its life force did not increase significantly, but it became more active. Just like before when it was asleep. Although its life force was strong, it was like a pool of stagnant water. Now that the stagnant water had ripples, the entire scarlet-feathered crow egg seemed to have woken up. If he could find more spiritual items that contained pure yang energy, he should be able to hatch the scarlet-feathered crow successfully. Bai Xing's clone was checking the information he got from Yuan Shen. The cultivators in the market could be divided into 3 types: rogue cultivators who fled here, body refinement cultivators who came to train their bodies, and native cultivators. At the edge of the southern wasteland, ordinary people were extremely rare. South of the treasured Cauldron Mountain, there were not many ordinary people. Although ordinary people did not cultivate, the violent spiritual energy was still unbearable for them. There were very few ordinary people whose parents were rogue cultivators who fled here. They could only live their entire lives in places protected by formations. Most of the natives here were half-demons. Their bodies were stronger than humans, and they could barely adapt to the environment at the edge of the southern wasteland. Ordinary people were extremely rare, and there were very few female rogue cultivators. Most of the cultivators who could not stay in the north and fled to the southern wasteland, and took root here, could only marry half-demons. Therefore, the natives here more or less had some demon bloodline. Half-demons could only live in the border areas and could not go too deep into the southern wasteland. They also had to face the threat of ferocious beasts, and there were not many of them. Therefore, the native forces of the Singing Sand Plains were very weak and were far from being able to dominate the market. In the Singing Sand Market, the wandering body refinement cultivators and the first generation of escapees had a higher status. After hearing this news, Wang Daoyuan was slightly relieved. At least in the Singing Sand Market, he didn't have to worry about offending a force that he couldn't afford to offend and being dealt with. The only ones who posed a threat to him were the bandits in Songsha Plain. When the cultivators in the Singing Sand Market went out to hunt or search for ores, they would always go out in groups. For example, the cultivator surnamed Xiang that they had met before. If they had not encountered the fierce sand wolves, the group of people would not have been injured, and the flying sand bandits would not have attacked them. After all, the flying sand bandits were after wealth and did not like to risk their lives. There was a grade 4 earth elemental energy vein in Mingsha Plain, and there was a possibility of nurturing the earth element essence there. Even if the chances were slim, Wang Daoyuan still wanted to give it a try. Therefore, exploring Mingsha Plain was inevitable. Although he preferred to explore alone, in order to avoid being surrounded by several groups of bandits, it was better to go out in a group. The place where the cultivators gathered was the southernmost part of the Singing Sand Market. Wang Daoyuan was not in a hurry to go out. Instead, he stayed in the Clear River Tavern for the time being to gather information about the bandits. The information that Yuan Shen gave him could not be completely trusted. It was better to verify it here. Half a month later, he left the Clear River Tavern and headed to the southernmost part of the Singing Sand Market to look for cultivators who could go out in groups. The place where the groups were gathered was a large open space, and it was quite lively. The groups that went deep into the Singing Sand Plain were usually Violet Palace Realm cultivators and Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators. After all, there were not many Violet Palace Realm cultivators, and it was difficult to find suitable ones. Moreover, there were some simple tasks that did not require Violet Palace Realm cultivators to do, such as activating formations, scouting, and healing Violet Palace Realm cultivators. Late or peak Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators might not necessarily be inferior to early Violet Palace Realm cultivators in these kinds of tasks. When the Spirit Stones were divided, Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators needed much less. Of course, these Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators also needed to have a skill that could play a role outside of battle. In this open space, Violet Palace Realm cultivators sat in groups of 3 to 5. The Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators were yelling about the situation and goals of the groups, looking for suitable cultivators to form a group with. When Wang Daoyuan arrived at the open space, over 10 people came up to him to strike up a conversation. He naturally wouldn't join the groups that had 6 or 7 Violet Palace Realm cultivators and wanted to recruit 1 or 2 Violet Palace Realm cultivators. It was very likely that such a group would kill the newcomers. Even if that wasn't the case, it was very likely that they would use the newcomers as a shield when they encountered danger. Wang Daoyuan took a fancy to a group of 4 Violet Palace Realm cultivators and 6 Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators. From the shouts of the Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators, he learned that their goal was to head to the Yellow Jagged Mountain to kill the mid-grade Grade 3 demonic beast, the Yellow Jagged Python. The Yellow Jagged Mountain was also on a Grade 4 Earth Attribute Spirit vein, so he could take a look at it. This group only had 4 Violet Palace Realm cultivators, 1 mid-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivator, and 3 early-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivators. With a group like this, even if they attacked him, he was confident that he would be able to escape unscathed. Wang Daoyuan took the initiative to strike up a conversation. He clasped his hands towards the middle-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivator and said, "I am Zhou Ming. I wish to join Daoyu's group. What do you think, Daoyu?" The late-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivator was dressed in a violet robe and had white hair and a beard. He inspected Wang Daoyuan's cultivation level and laughed, "I am Xue Ling. Greetings, Daoyu. Given Daoyu's middle-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivation, it wouldn't be hard for you to join a group of 10 or so Violet Palace Realm cultivators. Why did you choose to join my small group?" Wang Daoyuan laughed, "I've only just arrived here. If I were to join a group by myself, I'm afraid that they would eat me up until not even my bones would be left. I want to go out and gain experience, not go out and throw my life away. It's better to find a group that doesn't have many Violet Palace Realm cultivators." Xue Ling nodded. "Daoyu's words are reasonable. Then I welcome Daoyu to join. Dare I ask, what techniques does Daoyu have? We can have a rough understanding of them so that when hunting demonic beasts, we can take care of each other." Wang Daoyuan replied, "I am a dual attribute cultivator of metal and fire. My battle prowess is decent, and I am skilled in artifact forging and pill concocting. Both are at the low grade of the 3rd rank." Hearing these words, Xue Ling's eyes lit up. The reason they went to hunt yellow jagged pythons was to trade for spirit stones. The corpses of yellow jagged pythons were to be used for pill concocting or artifact forging. If he had someone in his group who was skilled in artifact forging and pill concocting, he would be able to deal with the yellow jagged pythons himself and save himself from being exploited. Xue Ling's face was filled with joy. He pointed at the 3 female cultivators amongst the early-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivators and said, Dao Yu, you have great ability. Let me introduce you to Dao Yu. This is my daughter, Xue Chan. She is skilled in formations. In the past, when we went out to hunt demonic beasts, we relied on her to preside over the formations. Wang Daoyuan greeted Xue Chan. Female cultivators were extremely rare amongst wandering cultivators, and those who had cultivated to the Violet Palace realm were even rarer. This Xue Chan's appearance was also not bad. Although she couldn't be considered a peerless beauty, she could still be considered to be above average. Xue Ling then pointed at the other 2 early-stage Violet Palace realm cultivators and said, These 2 Dao Yu are Chu Cheng and Wu Xiao. They are both body refiners who have come here to temper themselves, and their battle prowess is extremely strong. Wang Daoyuan greeted the 2. These 2 were both tall and muscular, and their bodies were covered with knotted muscles. It was obvious at a glance that they weren't to be trifled with. Xue Ling smiled and said, With Dao Yu joining us, 2 mid-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivators and 1 early-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivator will be able to kill yellow jagged pythons as easily as lifting a finger. There is no need to continue recruiting others. Everyone, make your preparations. We will set out as soon as possible. Xue Chan and the other Foundation establishment cultivators entered the market to purchase. A quarter of an hour later, they were back. After everyone had arrived, Xue Ling took out a high-grade second-grade flying boat that was only 3 meters long. Everyone boarded the flying boat and headed towards the southeast. This flying boat's speed wasn't slow. It could travel over 3,000 kilometers in 2 hours. After 4 hours, the yellow jagged mountain appeared in front of them. This yellow jagged mountain wasn't very tall. The highest peak wasn't even 3,000 meters tall, and the mountain range stretched for over 100 kilometers. As far as the eye could see, the entire mountain was covered in an earthy yellow color. There were jagged rocks of grotesque shapes, and not a single blade of grass grew. Chapter 441. Xue Ling ordered the Foundation establishment cultivators controlling the flying boat to land at the foot of the mountain northwest of Yellow Jagged Mountain. He pointed at Yellow Jagged Mountain and said, There's a small valley in the middle of Yellow Jagged Mountain. There's a rank 3 spirit vein and a spirit spring in the valley. The yellow jagged python we're going to kill is in this valley. The sky above the valley is filled with strange rocks. The flying boat can't enter, so we can only go on foot. The spirit energy here is a bit violent. If you feel uncomfortable, take out your one-time use magic tools to resist the violent spirit energy. They were already several thousand kilometers deep into Mingsha Plain, so the violent spirit energy had increased. Wang Daoyuan only felt his meridians swell a bit after the spirit energy entered his body, but it wasn't a big problem. As for the Foundation establishment cultivators, without the protection of the flying boat's formation, the veins on their foreheads bulged and their faces flushed red. Each of them took out a jade pendant about 1 inch in diameter. After activating it with spirit energy, it was immediately enveloped by a layer of milky white light. Soon after, their complexions quickly improved. Xue Ling continued, Let's end this quickly. These one-time use magic tools can only last for 2 hours. While the Foundation establishment cultivators still have the strength to fight, let's cooperate with the formation and quickly finish off the target. Otherwise, with only us Zifu realm cultivators acting, it'll be troublesome. If we make a big commotion, we'll attract other beasts. Xue Chan took out formation plates and distributed them to the Foundation establishment cultivators. After distributing them, Xue Ling led everyone on foot. After walking for several dozen breaths of time, they found a narrow mountain path. This path was only 2 feet wide. Chu Cheng and Wu Xiao both had to walk sideways to pass. After walking for about 3 kilometers along the mountain path, the path ahead suddenly opened up. Although there was still very little light in the sky, the space in front of them had become much larger. Xue Ling transmitted to everyone, Yellow jagged pythons are vicious beasts. They have extremely low intelligence and weak spiritual sense, but their bodies are strong and their hearing is extremely sharp. Everyone, try not to make a sound. If there's a problem, use your spiritual sense to communicate. Everyone nodded silently. Soon after, Xuechan began to instruct everyone to set up a formation. Wang Daoyuan scanned the formation plates with his spiritual sense and then looked at where they were placed. He saw that this was a low-grade rank 3 earth and dragon trapping formation. This formation's main function was to trap and suppress. It didn't have any offensive power. After the foundation establishment cultivator buried the formation, Xue Ling took out a rank 2 wild boar from the spirit beast pouch. He sent his voice to everyone, find a place to hide, conceal your presence and don't reveal yourselves. Everyone found a place to hide. Xue Ling took out a silver sword and beheaded the wild boar. He abandoned the wild boar and quickly looked for a place to hide. Wang Daoyuan felt that this trap was too childish. However, he didn't expect that after a few breaths, a 3-meter-long python would emerge from the darkness. The python's body was covered in layers of yellow scales, and there was not a single weak point on its body. It was said that if you hit a snake, you should hit its weak spot. However, even if you hit its weak spot, you wouldn't be able to hurt it. The python kept flicking its tongue and smelling the scent of blood. Soon, it entered the range of the earthly dragon trapping formation. Wang Daoyuan couldn't help but sigh. This beast's intelligence was really low. Most rank 1 demonic beasts wouldn't fall for such a simple trap. A class 3 mid-tier dire beast was struck just like that. Xuechan took out a command medallion and injected spiritual power into it. The 10 or so formation discs that had been buried in advance emitted a dazzling yellow light. The light condensed into pillars of light. These pillars of light continued to extend and quickly formed the illusion of a cage. Xuechan waved her hand and smiled confidently. Foundation establishment cultivators, go guard the 5 formation discs in the inner layer and prevent the yellow jagged python from breaking out. The yellow jagged python fiercely slammed into the cage a few times, causing the illusion to shake. 6 foundation establishment cultivators quickly ran over and injected spiritual power into the formation discs, increasing the formation's power. Xuechan also ran to the 5 formation discs in the inner layer and controlled an isolated formation disc. This formation disc should be the core of the formation. With a Zifu disciple overseeing it, the yellow jagged python wouldn't be able to break the formation in a short period of time. The yellow jagged python slammed into the cage again, but the illusion remained unmoved. Although it was a dire beast with low intelligence, it still had innate magical arts. It emitted a violent wave of spiritual power, causing the ground to tremble faintly. It wanted to use the ground to execute an earth-type magical art and disperse the formation. However, the earthly dragon trapping formation was specifically used to trap demonic beasts, so how could it not be prepared? This wave of spiritual power was blocked by the formation and the ground didn't move at all. The yellow jagged python used an earth escape technique again, but it still couldn't break out of the formation's confinement. The Xue father and daughter both revealed smiles. This yellow jagged python had already become a turtle in a jar. Xue Ling took out his silver longsword and attacked the yellow jagged python's head. This earthly dragon trapping formation defended against the inside but not the outside. The python inside couldn't escape, but attacks from the outside could easily pass through the formation. However, when Xue Ling's flying sword struck the yellow jagged python's head, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. The yellow jagged python was completely unharmed. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't expect the yellow jagged python's defense to be so strong. Xue Ling was also a metal-type cultivator, but his flying sword couldn't even break through the enemy's defense. Chu Cheng and Wu Zhao's magic tools were also heavy swords. If sharp blades couldn't break through the yellow jagged python's defense, then heavy swords were even more useless. They could only rely on heavy blows to injure the yellow jagged python's internal organs. Xue Ling asked, Zhou Daoyu is a metal-type and fire-type dual cultivator. Do you have a way to break through the yellow jagged python's defense? Wang Daoyuan answered, this yellow jagged python's entire body is covered in scales. Its only weakness is its mouth. If you let it open its mouth, I'll have the confidence to kill it in one strike. If you can't, then you can only use fire-type magic to slowly roast it." Hearing this, Chu Cheng and Wu Xiao each wielded a heavy sword and smashed it towards the yellow jagged python's head. The yellow jagged python was also extremely arrogant. It didn't dodge at all and used its head and tail to meet the heavy swords head-on. The two of them didn't have enough cultivation to pose a threat to the yellow jagged python. The shockwaves from the battle hit the formation, causing the 6 Foundation establishment cultivators to feel a lot of pressure. As for Xue Chan, who was controlling the formation, her forehead was also covered in sweat. If this continued, they wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. At that time, the formation would be broken and all their previous efforts would be wasted. Xue Ling clenched his teeth and took out a 5-inch square silver seal. As he continued to inject spiritual energy into the seal, it quickly grew to a size of 5 feet. At this time, Xue Ling controlled the seal and smashed it towards the yellow jagged python's head. The yellow jagged python wanted to dodge, but it was blocked by Chu Cheng and Wu Xiao. Helpless, it could only circulate its spirit power and take this blow head-on. The seal smashed onto the python's head, but it still couldn't break through its defense. However, the yellow jagged python had suffered a heavy blow and raised its head to roar in pain. Wang Daoyuan instantly took out the baneful life extinction sword. With a wave of his right hand sword finger, the flying sword flew straight towards the yellow jagged python's mouth. This flying sword had been given to him by Luo Jiuyo when he was conferred the title of Elder. At this time, the yellow jagged python's mind was in a daze. Before it could react, the flying sword had already entered its abdomen. Although Wang Daoyuan wasn't using the white tiger blade, he could still use the white tiger sword intent. The baneful life extinction sword carried a large amount of sword chi and fiendish aura as it poured into the yellow jagged python's body. No matter how strong its body was, its internal organs couldn't withstand Wang Daoyuan's full power attack. The yellow jagged python's body writhed violently. After a few breaths, it stopped struggling. The baneful life extinction sword flew out of its mouth. Wang Daoyuan cleaned the sword several times before putting it away. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Xue Chan stopped activating the formation and instructed the Foundation establishment cultivators, "Go see if there's anything good in the yellow jagged python's cave residence." Xue Ling put away the seal and the yellow jagged python's corpse. The Foundation establishment cultivators also swept through the cave residence and found several pieces of rank 3 earth attribute materials. Xue Ling took the materials and said, "We can't stay here for long. Let's return to Singing Sand Market first and then divide the spoils." Everyone had no objections and returned along the path they came from. Just as they walked out of the mountain path, a rank 3 lower grade khaki flying sword slashed towards them. Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and the baneful life extinction sword flew over, directly cutting the khaki flying sword into 2. An arrogant voice sounded, "I didn't see that there was a sword cultivator in your group. Kid, you have the qualifications to join us flying sand bandits." Chapter 442. Before he finished speaking, 3 flying boats appeared in front of everyone. On each boat, there were 2 Zifu realm cultivators and more than 10 Foundation establishment realm cultivators. In terms of strength, Wang Daoyuan's side really didn't have the advantage. On the first boat stood a tall and sturdy middle-stage Zifu realm man with yellow hair and a yellow beard. He sneered at Wang Daoyuan's group, revealing 2 extremely long canine teeth. This person should be a half-demon, but he didn't have much demon blood. Apart from his hair and canine teeth, he didn't have any other demon characteristics. He looked at Wang Daoyuan and said with a smile, "Kid, not everyone has the qualifications to join Flying Sand Wanderer. Letting you join is giving you face. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Wang Daoyuan said with disdain, "I've always liked to be free. I'm not even willing to become an elder of a big sect, so why would I serve a Zifu realm cultivator? If you have something to say, just say it. After that, we still have to hurry on with our journey." The yellow-haired cultivator sneered, interesting. You're even a genius cultivator from outside. I'll first complete the mission given to me by Flying Sand Wanderer, then kill your arrogance. After saying this, he waved his hand, and the 3 flying boats surrounded everyone. He looked at Xue Chan and asked Xue Ling, old man surnamed Xue, our big boss Flying Sand Wanderer wants to marry a human female cultivator. I think your daughter is pretty good. Miss Xue Chan marrying our big boss is a good thing. It's better for her to marry a human. In this Mingsha plain, how many people can compare to our big boss? Wang Daoyuan felt that it was a bit strange to meet someone who wanted to snatch someone. Previously, he had only dealt with the red-beard bandits and had seen them plunder businesses, but he had never seen anyone who wanted to snatch a bride. However, there were very few ordinary human women in Mingsha Plain, and even fewer female cultivators. Flying Sand Wanderer was also a particular person. If he married a half-demon woman, his descendants would be stained with demon blood. Although they would live longer, their cultivation speed would be very slow, and their comprehension wouldn't be that good. In a place like Mingsha Plain, where even living was hard, there wasn't much time to grow. Without strength, even living would be a problem. No matter how long one's lifespan was, it wouldn't have any value. Furthermore, once a descendant had a demonic bloodline, it would be difficult for them to escape the influence for several generations. Unless the demonic beast's bloodline was a high-level demonic beast or even a divine beast, the demonic beast's descendants' cultivation speed would be greatly affected and their lifespan would be greatly extended. But this kind of half-demon woman, even Jean Dan's stage cultivators would be tempted. How could she fall into the hands of the Flying Sand Bandits? Xue Ling took out a storage bag and clasped his hands. Dao Yu, my daughter is still young and has no intention of getting married for the time being. Please be magnanimous, Dao Yu. This is a small token of appreciation from this old man. Please accept it, Dao Yu. The yellow-haired cultivator didn't even look at the storage bag in Xue Ling's hand. Old man, are you deaf? Who wants your little stuff? What our leader wants is your daughter. Either you marry your daughter obediently, or we can only use force. At that time, apart from your daughter and this sword cultivator, I'm afraid no one here will survive. After speaking, the 6 Zifu disciples all took out their magic artifacts, preparing to attack. Xue Chan protected a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator behind her. Her face was bitter, tears welling up in her eyes. This weeping beauty, any man would feel heartache seeing her. Chu Cheng and Wu Xiao were both young, only around 100 years old. Among the Zifu disciples, they were all hot-blooded brats. How could they endure this? Furthermore, looking at the expressions of these 2 people, they were a bit interested in Xue Chan. Hearing the yellow-haired cultivator's words, Chu Cheng immediately shouted angrily. If you dare touch us, I'm afraid the Flying Sand Bandits won't leave even a chicken or a dog alive. Wu Xiao also said disdainfully. If you really fight with your lives on the line, the 6 of you really might not be able to leave alive. The spells that the 2 of them used when fighting with the yellow serpent should be the inheritance of the Wu and Chu royal families. But looking at their strength, they shouldn't be direct descendants. But as members of the royal family, they still couldn't avoid their pride. Hearing the tone of their words, these 2 guys still had some status in their respective countries. At the very least, they were the sons of a feudal lord. Furthermore, the meaning of Wu Zhao's words was that they were still hiding some great killing weapon on them. The yellow-haired cultivator's face was also a bit bewildered. In order to snatch a bandit's wife for the leader, it wasn't worth it to put their lives on the line. These 2 guys were clearly body refinement cultivators who came from outside to gain experience. These kind of people mostly had a background and were ruthless characters who had great killing weapons on them. If they were provoked, the Flying Sand Bandits would really be in danger. But if they were scared off by a few words, they wouldn't be able to have a foothold among the Flying Sand Bandits in the future. He pondered for a while and smiled. Looks like these 2 body refinement cultivators still have some background. But, you want to make us retreat with just your mouth? What kind of people do you think we are? Xue Ling was also an old fox who had been in the cultivation world for hundreds of years. Naturally, he could see that the yellow-haired cultivator's attitude had softened. He took out another storage bag and said with a smile, "You are a magnanimous person, don't lower yourself to our level. I still have some savings here, and I'm willing to give them all to you. Please be magnanimous." The yellow-haired cultivator was a bit conflicted in his heart. He could either take the money and leave, but it would be a bit shameful, and his future status would also be affected. Or he could risk his life to take down the other party, and his subordinates would suffer heavy casualties. If he succeeded, naturally everyone would be happy. If he couldn't win against the other party, he would lose everything. When he returned, the leader wouldn't forgive him. He repeatedly swayed between the two choices. Glancing at Wang Daoyuan, he had a plan in his heart. He smiled and said, "Old man Shui, your daughter's matter can be put aside for today. We'll prepare a generous gift for her another day, but I want to take this sword cultivator with me." This plan was indeed not bad. If he could recruit a sword cultivator for the flying sand bandits, not only would his status not fall, it would instead be more stable. The expressions on the four people's faces changed. Wang Daoyuan had just joined the team, and didn't have any feelings for them. To be able to escape unscathed, abandoning a teammate wasn't impossible. Moreover, Wang Daoyuan wasn't going to die, but to become a member of the flying sand bandits. Seeing the change in the four people's attitude, the yellow-haired cultivator revealed a happy expression. He smiled and said, "That sword cultivator boy, they aren't willing to risk their lives for you. You won't lose out if you join us. Our leader also married a few half-demon women and gave birth to a few daughters. As long as you join, becoming the leader's son-in-law isn't a problem. At that time, you'll be second only to one person in the flying sand bandits. A son-in-law and half a son. After the leader's 100 years, it's not impossible for you to become the leader." Wang Daoyuan looked at the four people's changes, and sneered, "If I'm willing to marry a wife, a Jin Dan direct disciple wouldn't be a problem. A mere bandit's nest wants to keep me?" When the yellow-haired cultivator heard this, he said angrily, "Dao Yu sure talks big, looking down on us flying sand bandits. I'd like to see what ability you have to be so arrogant." Wang Daoyuan smiled contemptuously. Holding the Heaven Fiend Life Extinction Sword with both hands, he released the White Tiger Sword Intent and the White Tiger's Charm. It was as if a White Tiger divine beast had descended. Everyone was frightened by the might of the White Tiger. Wang Daoyuan said disdainfully, "With your little strength, if I want to kill you within 10 miles, you won't be able to live for more than 2 breaths of time. Even if the flying sand cultivator comes, I can still escape unscathed. Yellow-haired, do you dare to gamble?" When the yellow-haired cultivator heard Wang Daoyuan call him yellow-haired, he was furious. The veins on his forehead bulged. Both of his hands clenched into fists, making cracking sounds. He raised his right hand. Everyone took out their magic tools. As soon as he gave the order, they would immediately attack and besiege Wang Daoyuan. Who knew that he waved his hand behind him and shouted, "Retreat." The flying sand bandits were all stunned. "If you want to retreat, just say so. Why are you putting on a posture of wanting to attack?" Especially the few Zifu cultivators. They looked at the yellow-haired cultivator with unfriendly expressions. "I've already taken out my life artifact, and you're telling me to retreat?" It was like hitting cotton with all his strength, and even spraining his waist. Chapter 443. Although they looked down on the yellow-haired cultivator, the 5 Zifu stage-flying sand bandits didn't say anything. If they really fought with this sword cultivator, they were also afraid. Although they felt that it was impossible for Wang Daoyuan to kill all 6 of their Zifu stage cultivators by himself, his aura was so frightening. However, his frightening aura made people tremble in fear, and they believed that he could instantly kill someone. No one wanted to be the one to be killed. Everyone became flying sand bandits in order to live a good life without any effort, not to court death. In a situation where victory was certain, everyone wanted to make a move. But now that they had met a tough opponent, they still wanted to hide. Anyway, the leader was yellow-haired cultivator, so if the leader blames them, yellow-haired cultivator would take the blame. The 3 flying ships retreated towards the east, and the cultivators on both sides let out a sigh of relief. The yellow-haired cultivator wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, panting heavily. But looking at that kid's aura, once he made a move, he might not be able to keep his life. Against such an expert, he had to preserve his strength and bring his brothers back unharmed. If he said that the kid was even stronger, not only would the leader not blame him, he would even reward him. Maybe the leader would even personally make a move in anger and capture the kid. At that time, he would have a chance to take revenge. After the flying sand bandits left, Wang Daoyuan withdrew his aura and looked at Xue Ling and the other 3 Zifu stage cultivators. Previously, when the flying sand bandits wanted to let Xue Ling and the other 3 go, they only wanted to capture him. The 4 of them had the thought of abandoning Wang Daoyuan and escaping from this place. Wang Daoyuan found a team to prevent these bandits from having any ideas about him and avoid some trouble. These people were not reliable, and if he continued to follow them, he might be betrayed again. He looked at the 4 and sneered, since things have come to this, there is no point in continuing to follow Dao Yu. Although I was the one who killed the yellow python, I don't care about a class 3 dire beast. I like to collect rare materials, give me the things you get from the yellow python's cave, I don't want the yellow python's corpse at all. Wang Daoyuan's request wasn't too much. He put in the most effort, but he only wanted some scraps. In addition, he was very powerful. No matter what request he made, they would not dare to refuse. Xue Ling cupped his hands and said, Dao Yu's request is very reasonable, I have no objections. It's just that this old man had eyes but failed to see through Dao Yu's strength. I hope that Dao Yu can give this old man another chance. After saying that, he pulled over the Peak Foundation establishment cultivator that Xue Chan was protecting earlier and said with a smile, ever since I stepped on the path of cultivation, I've been an itinerant cultivator and have never joined any forces. In the blink of an eye, more than 400 years had passed, leaving behind only 2 descendants. This is my son, Xue Lin. He has an 8.5-inch metal spirit root. He had also cultivated some sword cultivation spells and was a good seedling for sword cultivation. He was not even 100 years old yet. There was also his daughter, Xue Chan. She was only 120 years old. However, she was only a Violet Palace realm female cultivator and didn't possess sufficient strength to protect herself, so it was very easy for her to be reduced to being a dual cultivation vessel for a golden core cultivator of a great power. This old man doesn't have much time left. Once I pass away, it would be difficult for this pair of children to survive. This old man is willing to give his life savings to Dao Yu. I only hope that Dao Yu can take care of them after this old man dies. This old man was quite scheming. He gave all his savings to Wang Daoyuan, then asked him to marry Xue Chan and pass on his skills to Xue Lin. Unfortunately, Wang Daoyuan did not care about his savings or Xue Chan's looks. He liked to travel and rarely gave pointers to his own juniors, let alone an outsider. Clan cultivators were rarely willing to accept outsiders as disciples. After all, the clan was maintained by bloodline. Without the bloodline of the clan, no matter how close one was, they would still be an outsider. Even if they wanted to marry in, no clan would be willing to take in an especially strong person. The status of a true disciple was equivalent to a son and had the right to inherit the master's inheritance. If the disciple's character was not good, it was not uncommon for the disciple to compete with the master's son for the inheritance after the master passed away. There were even cases where the disciple took over the master's clan. Only in sects, which were maintained by master and disciple relationships, would cultivators be willing to accept disciples. Wang Daoyuan was a clan cultivator, so how could he accept outsiders as his disciples so easily? Moreover, Xue Ling and the others had just wanted to sell him out. He shook his head and smiled. If I wanted spirit stones, it wouldn't take me much effort to earn 1,000,000 or 100,000. I'm not interested in your savings. As for Dao Yu, Xue Chan is indeed a rare beauty. But I've seen many beauties, and she's not one of them. I also have no intention of accepting disciples. Even if Xue Lin has heavenly spirit roots, I won't accept him. Dao Yu, instead of begging me, you might as well beg Dao Yu Chu Cheng and Wu Xiao. These two Dao Yu Chu Cheng and Wu Xiao also have extraordinary family backgrounds. Relying on either of them is much better than relying on a wild crane like me. Female Zifu realm cultivators are rare. It's not impossible for them to marry a member of a royal family. In any case, you've been through fire and water once. I advise Dao Yu to take advantage of the fact that the flying sand bandits have just left and leave Mingsha Plain as soon as possible. It's good to go to Chu or Wu, or to other markets at the edge of the southern wasteland. If you're late, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave. Xue Ling sighed and took out a storage pouch, handing it to Wang Daoyuan. Since it's like this, I won't say anything more. The flying sand bandits are savage, and the flying sand wanderer is powerful. Please take care of yourself, Dao Yu. Wang Daoyuan took the storage pouch and put it into the space of the spiritual pearl. Just now, he scared away the flying sand bandits. That yellow-haired guy is not someone who can suffer losses. He'll definitely bring more people here to take revenge. Although he's confident that he can escape unscathed from the flying sand wanderer, he'll inevitably have to pay a price. It's better to go to another place and temporarily avoid the danger. He rode his sword towards the northwest, planning to go along the edge of the wild sand bandits' area of activity and circle back to the singing sand market. In the space of the spiritual pearl, Doppelganger Tu Yuming opened the storage pouch and checked it. He really did find something useful. There's an earthy yellow feather inside, emitting earth attribute spiritual power. Although it's not a life feather, it's still the feather of an earth attribute demon bird. Moreover, it's still quite fresh. It's probably something left over from the yellow spike python's hunt of an earth attribute demon bird. An earth attribute demon bird is the rarest type of demon bird among the 5 elements. After all, the earth attribute specialty is its thickness, while the bird's specialty is its agility. The two contradict each other. To be able to find traces of an earth attribute demon bird is really not easy. Wang Daoyuan naturally doesn't want to let go of this good opportunity. The yellow spike python's agility isn't strong, and it doesn't like to run around. When it hunts, it mostly relies on waiting for prey. To be able to catch a demon bird, it means that there should be earth attribute demon birds roaming around here. Doppelganger Tu Yuming also found a few fiery red stones in the storage pouch. Other than dense fire attribute spiritual power, there's also dense yang qi. This yang qi is rather heterogeneous and can't be considered pure yang qi. However, it's superior in quantity. If Tu Yuming refines it, it can also be used to nurture the scarlet-feathered crow's eggs. This thing is a bit similar to the fiery sunstone. In the treasure forging inheritance that he copied in Lei Yanjinren's cave, it's mentioned before. The fiery sunstone is a 3rd-level lower-grade fire attribute spiritual material. It's often used as a supplementary material when forging fire attribute magic weapons. It's not an irreplaceable material, and its value isn't too high. It's just that it's not very common. This thing only exists near lava and absorbs large amounts of fire attribute spiritual power. Fire attribute spiritual power gathers within it. By chance, a portion of the fire attribute spiritual power is converted into yang qi. Just like the crimson sun primordial fire, it can consume fire attribute spiritual power and produce pure yang qi. However, the yang qi produced by the crimson sun primordial fire is too weak. It's not even enough to incubate the scarlet-feathered crow's eggs. The yellow spike python doesn't like to run around. If the fiery sunstone is found in its cave, then it's very likely that there are more fiery sunstones in the depths of the yellow spike mountain. If he can find more fiery sunstones, he won't have to worry about incubating the scarlet-feathered crow's eggs. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan's sword kinesis flight speed has already exceeded 4,000 miles in 2 hours. Even though he took a detour, he still returned to Singing Sand Market after 6 hours. Chapter 444. After Wang Daoyuan returned to the Singing Sand Market, he did not immediately return to the room he rented at the Clear River Tower. Instead, he went to a shop that sold magic tools. This shop was opened by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. It was much larger than the shop in the Clear Glass Market. Some of the markets at the edge of the southern wasteland were the source of the Divine Weapon Pavilion's raw materials. The Divine Weapon Pavilion naturally placed great importance on the shops here. When he was at the Huang Jagged Mountain, the one-time magic tools that the Foundation establishment cultivators used to resist the violent spiritual energy were sold by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. He wanted to find the metal attribute spiritual fire, so he did not know how far he would have to go into the southern wasteland. He still had to prepare a magic tool that could resist the violent spiritual energy. His master, Lei Yanjinren, did not prepare such a magic tool for him, probably because he was afraid that he would go too deep and encounter danger. In the legacy of refining left behind by the ancestors, there was no such crude magic tool refining method. He could only come to the Divine Weapon Pavilion's shop to see if there were any similar magic tools that were more reliable. After entering the Divine Weapon Pavilion's shop, a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator immediately came up to him. "May I ask what magic tools Senior wants?" "Our shop has all kinds of third-level magic tools. You can even buy a large Dharma artifact like a flying boat here." Wang Daoyuan replied, "You should have a magic tool that can resist the violent spiritual energy, right? Give me one of a higher grade. It's best if it's not those cheap one-time magic tools." The Peak Foundation establishment cultivator replied, "Senior, are you talking about the jade pendant? We do have a high-grade one here. After activating it, it can be used for 12 hours. But we really don't have a one-time magic tool here." Wang Daoyuan naturally did not believe him. He was a refiner, so these things could not be hidden from him. As long as there was a pattern with this function, it would not be strange to refine any kind of magic tool. At most, it would be more difficult to refine, and the materials used would be more precious. However, if they only sold one-time magic tools, this business could be done for a long time. If they sold magic tools that could be used for a long time, this business would become a one-time deal. The Divine Weapon Pavilion naturally hoped to sell one-time magic tools. Wang Daoyuan looked at him in disbelief, and said, "You can't hide this from me. Just tell me the price." At this moment, a voice came from upstairs. "Daoyu, don't make things difficult for a junior like him. Please come upstairs to talk." Wang Daoyuan felt that this voice was somewhat familiar. It should be a disciple of the Divine Weapon Pavilion that he had met before. Upon reaching the second floor, he saw a middle-stage Zifu disciple seated on a chair. When he saw Wang Daoyuan enter, he gestured for him to take a seat. Wang Daoyuan reverted his face back to normal and smiled. "We meet everywhere in life. I didn't expect to see Senior Martial Brother He here." This person was none other than Lei Yen Dao Master's in-name disciple, He Yuanqing. During Wang Daoyuan's Purple Palace Grand Ceremony, he was the one who came to congratulate him. Recognizing that it was Wang Daoyuan, He Yuanqing replied, "I was wondering who it was. So it's junior brother Dao Yuan." The market square at the edge of the southern wasteland was an important source of spiritual items for the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Every single city has Zifu disciples who take turns to guard it. "I just arrived here not too long ago. Do you want to enter the southern wasteland with the spirit-blocking jade pendant?" Wang Daoyuan smiled. "Of course. My natal magic artifact is the 5 elements devil-subduing seal. Refining the Kirin seal requires the essence of earth, and I can't find it anywhere else. Thus, I can only come to the southern wasteland to try my luck. I wonder if Senior Martial Brother has the spirit-blocking jade pendant?" He Yuanqing smiled. "The spirit-blocking jade pendant is just a small trick. It's not difficult to refine a normal magic artifact, but it won't be easy to earn spiritual stones. The shop doesn't have it, but I still have a third-grade mid-grade one with me. I'll give it to you. This isn't a magic artifact created by our sect, so I can't give you the refining method. If you don't want to use this jade pendant, you can destroy it, but don't spread it around. Otherwise, the Divine Weapon Pavilion will lose a business." After he finished speaking, he took out a jade pendant and handed it to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan took the jade pendant and smiled. "Don't worry, I know the rules." After exchanging a few words with Yuan Qing, Wang Daoyuan left the shop and returned to the Clear River Inn. In the following days, he didn't rush to go out, but stayed in the side room of the Clear River Inn. Every day, he would order a few dishes and 2 jars of wine in the hall on the first floor. He would eat and drink while asking for information. Just like that, 3 months passed. During this time, the Flying Sand Gang was still very active. However, they were active in the Green Rock Mountain area. The Green Rock Mountain was 10,000 miles east of the Yellow Jagged Mountain. It was the area where the Flying Sand Bandits were active. However, the bandits in the Singing Sand Plain also knew how to operate. They didn't attack the cultivators they saw. When the cultivators who went out to hunt encountered the bandits, as long as they gave them some spiritual stones or resources, the bandits wouldn't attack them. Therefore, the areas where the bandits were active were often visited by cultivators to hunt. The Yellow Jagged Mountain was in the middle of the area where the Flying Sand Bandits and the Wild Sand Bandits were active. It was a buffer zone between the two. Wang Daoyuan also heard news about the Earth Attribute Demonic Bird. This Earth Attribute Demonic Bird was called the Sand-Chasing Hawk. The Sand-Chasing Hawk's wingspan was about 10 feet. It was covered in earthy yellow feathers and was proficient in many Earth Attribute spells. Whenever there was a sandstorm in the Singing Sand Plain, they would always follow behind the sandstorm and constantly cast Earth Attribute spells to increase the power of the sandstorm. Borrowing the power of the sandstorm, heavily injuring the prey, and then hunting the prey. This was also where the name came from. The Sand-Chasing Hawk didn't have a fixed residence. Wherever there was sandstorm, there would definitely be traces of the Sand-Chasing Hawk. This was easy to handle. It was a bit difficult to find a bird in the desert, but it was still very easy to find sandstorm. After 3 months, the cultivators who went to the Yellow Jagged Mountain area didn't find any traces of the Flying Sand Bandits. Wang Daoyuan decided to go to the Yellow Jagged Mountain to look for the Fiery Sunstone. The various bandits also had spies in the Singing Sand Market. Wang Daoyuan still had to be careful to avoid the Flying Sand Bandit spies. He didn't want to be found out by the Flying Sand Bandits as soon as he left the Singing Sand Market. He didn't directly go towards the southeast, but first flew towards the west. He passed through the Wild Sand Bandits area of activity, took a big detour, and came to the Yellow Jagged Mountain. There really wasn't any trace of the Flying Sand Bandits here. He walked into the small valley where he hunted the Yellow Jagged Python. Using his divine sense, he didn't find any threats. He went straight to the Yellow Jagged Python's cave. Last time when he ambushed the Yellow Jagged Python, he didn't carefully investigate this cave. After walking a few hundred feet, he saw a spring with a diameter of about 3 feet. The water in this spring wasn't small, but the surrounding was a desert. This bit of spring water wasn't enough. The spring water flowed out of the spring, but before it flowed out of the valley, it was sucked dry by the sand and rocks. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to scan the Yellow Jagged Python's cave, but didn't find a passage leading to the underground. This was very strange. Without a passage leading to the underground, how did the Fiery Sunstone run from the vicinity of the earth fire to the Yellow Jagged Python's cave? He took out the spirit-seeking compass and probed the underground situation. The result was that within 500 feet of the cave, there was no space that could accommodate the Yellow Jagged Python. This was a place where there was a lack of water, and there were no caves underground. There were only some cracks in the rock, but they couldn't accommodate such a large python. Even though the Yellow Jagged Python was a rank 3 dire beast, it knew the earth escape technique. But no matter how strong its body was, it couldn't escape to the underground lava. Even Yuanian cultivators couldn't escape to 70 to 80,000 feet underground. In the entire valley, this spring water was a bit out of the ordinary. Because it was a hot spring. Wang Daoyuan naturally knew what a hot spring meant. The underground water vein of this spring water was definitely not far from the lava. He used the spirit-seeking compass to probe the bottom of the spring. Below the spring was a slightly wider crack in the rock. However, this crack couldn't accommodate the yellow jagged python. The spirit-seeking compass's probing range could only reach 500 feet underground. It couldn't reach nearly 10,000 feet underground. Since he couldn't find the passage through which the yellow jagged python obtained the fiery sunstone, he gave up. At worst, he could just go back to his old profession and dig directly from the surface to the underground lava. Back then, for the Gui water death flame, he dug for 10 years. Now that his cultivation was high and he had the dust-returning flame, it wouldn't take long to dig to the lava. Chapter 445. Wang Daoyuan dug a hole with a diameter of 1 zhang in the ground of the yellow nightmare python's abode. He took out a wisp of returning dust flame and guided it into the hole. The moment the yellow flame came into contact with the rock, it instantly burned fiercely. The concentration of spirit qi in the space of the spirit pearl was much higher than when he was searching for the Gui water nether spring. Naturally, the returning dust flame was also much stronger than before. In addition, there was a rank 4 earth spirit vein nearby, so the earth spirit qi was extremely dense. Originally, the wisp of flame was only as thick as a finger, but after coming into contact with the rock at the bottom of the hole, it instantly covered the entire bottom of the hole. Not only did he not need to use spirit qi to support the burning of the flame, he also needed to continuously extract spirit qi from the flame to prevent it from burning too fiercely. In Mingsha Plain, the earth spirit qi was the most abundant. Once the returning dust flame went out of control, it was hard to say what kind of damage it would cause. The spirit qi extracted from the returning dust flame was not violent at all. It was very similar to his earth spirit qi and could be used by him with a little refinement. Ordinary cultivators could withstand the damage of violent spirit qi even with the spirit-isolating jade pendant. However, the spirit-isolating jade pendant blocked the spirit qi around their bodies. They could not meditate to recover spirit qi, let alone cultivate. After a long time, the spirit items they carried would be exhausted. Without spirit qi to replenish, no matter how strong they were, they could not avoid death. With the returning dust flame, if one did not have enough spirit qi, they could release the spirit fire and burn some rocks to obtain pure earth spirit qi. It could be used to quickly recover one's spirit qi. Although the recovery speed was slower than drinking spirit wine, it was much better than eating spirit recovery pills. Most importantly, this thing did not cost anything. No wonder Master said that with the spirit fire, there was no need to fear violent spirit qi. Moreover, the spirit qi extracted from the returning dust flame was extremely pure. If it was used to condense true essence, regardless of the speed or the quality of the true essence, it would not be too far off from the heavenly spirit root. This was under the condition that the returning dust flame's fire seed had not been refined. After the 5 elements Taoist refined the spirit fire, his cultivation speed was extremely fast. However, if he kept absorbing spirit qi and did not have the time to circulate his cultivation method to condense true essence, the spirit qi in his body would soon become excessive. He directly sent the spiritual power in his dantian into his sea of consciousness and zifu through his meridians, and then stored them in his spiritual pearl. Using the heaven-burning divine flame technique consumed too much of his divine sense. Back then, in order to test whether the vermilion bird fan modified by his master could be used, he refined a 3rd-rank low-grade vermilion bird fan. Although it was an ordinary magic artifact, it could still increase the power of the flames. After taking out the vermilion bird fan, he used the vermilion bird fire manipulation technique, and the power of his flames doubled. The speed of its descent was also extremely fast. Even if it could burn a hole with a diameter of 10 feet, it could still burn a hole of 400 to 500 feet deep within 2 hours. In the area of Mingsha Plain, the flat terrain was also higher, so the distance between the ground and the underground lava was larger. It was estimated to be more than 90,000 feet. If they didn't need to take a detour, they would be able to see lava within 20 days. 4 hours later, Wang Daoyuan controlled the vermilion bird fan while using the earth mountain technique to block the entrance of the cave. Although there weren't many demonic beasts in the Huang Jagged Mountains, and there weren't many cultivators who came here to hunt, they still had to be cautious. After sealing the entrance of the cave that was more than 100 feet deep, he took out the formation plate and set up an array formation below to block the detection of divine sense. With these preparations, cultivators below the Golden Core realm wouldn't be able to see any clues at all if they didn't observe carefully. After pushing down for more than 1,000 feet, he used the spirit-seeking compass to detect the existence of fiery sunstone at the hot spring vein. Now, Wang Daoyuan understood that this thing was brought up by the spring water. Since it was so coincidental that it was brought up by the spring water, and more than one piece at that, it meant that there was definitely a lot of fiery sunstone below. After pushing down for more than 10 days and digging more than 90,000 feet deep, the rock under his feet became scorching hot. Wang Daoyuan used his water attribute and metal attribute spiritual power, and used the ice armor technique to wrap himself in a layer of ice armor, so he could ignore this little bit of heat. Using the spirit-seeking compass to detect, he found that the underground lava was more than 1,000 feet down. Moreover, the spirit-seeking compass had also found the fiery sunstone vein. The hot spring vein was more than 20 feet above the underground lava, entangled with the fiery sunstone vein. The lower end of the fiery sunstone vein was even closer to the lava. In terms of the quality of the fiery sunstone, the closer it was to the lava, the better. The fiery sunstone above could only absorb a portion of the fire spiritual power that passed through the rock layer, so the quality was naturally not good. The fiery sunstones that were brought up by the hot spring were all of the lower quality. After confirming that there was a fiery sunstone vein, Wang Daoyuan was even more motivated. It only took more than 2 hours to reach the side of the fiery sunstone vein. He deliberately avoided the underground water vein and dug the fiery sunstone from the side of the vein. At this moment, he and the underground lava were only separated by a layer of rock that was more than 100 feet thick. The bottom of the rock layer was directly in contact with the lava. This situation was like cooking a pot. The rock layer was the pot, and he was the ingredient in the pot. He needed to constantly consume water spiritual power to prevent himself from being cooked. At this depth, he couldn't let the dust-returning flame burn anymore. If it burned through the rock and the lava surged up, it would definitely burn him into charcoal. He couldn't persist at this depth for a long time. He had to hurry up and dig the fiery sunstone. The earth-yellow flames that were still burning fiercely were directly stored into the space of the spirit pearl. At the same time, he also stored the vermilion bird fan into the space of the spirit pearl and handed it to his clone, Beiyuan, so that he could control the vermilion bird fan and control the flames to prevent them from burning the spiritual plants. In these few days, Wang Daoyuan had channeled a large amount of earth's spiritual power into the space of the spirit pearl. Now, the entire space of the spirit pearl was extremely rich and had already reached the level of a mid-grade rank 4 spirit vein. However, this spiritual power was like water without a source and would be quickly absorbed and consumed by spiritual plants. The spiritual power in the space would still return to the normal level of an upper-grade rank 3 spirit vein. Wang Daoyuan's understanding of the spirit pearl was still too little. He only knew that the source of the spiritual power in the space should be the void between the space and the outer shell of the spirit pearl. It was just that there was nothing in the void, and there was no spiritual power. He still had no idea how the spiritual power in the space was produced. In any case, it couldn't be produced by the 5 small rank 1 spirit veins. His clone, Beiyuan, was also a cultivator with 5 spirit veins. With Wang Daoyuan's divided soul, he could directly control the vermilion bird fan. With the suppression of the vermilion bird fan, the spiritual fire that surged into the space did not cause much damage. After dealing with the spiritual fire, Wang Daoyuan took out the prairie fire sword and began to dig for the fiery sunstone. The heat here was too strong. Every 15 minutes he dug, he had to run to the surface to rest for a while. However, the strength of the fiery sunstone was not high. He could use the prairie fire sword to pry it open, so the digging speed was not slow. After digging here for 3 days, the fiery sunstone that was dug out filled 5 ordinary storage bags. Adding one piece, it was more than 2,000 kilograms. According to the effect of using the fiery sunstone to nurture the red-feathered black eggs, with so many fiery sunstones, it was enough for the eggs to hatch 8 to 10 times. Wang Daoyuan was also worried that the eggs would cause trouble again, so he dug out more. After digging out enough fiery sunstone, this spirit vein could not be wasted. Who knew when it would be useful? After spending a lot of time, he used the Earth Mountain technique to seal the 500-feet tunnel. After recovering his spiritual power and divine sense, he flew straight up on his sword. When he reached the top of the tunnel, he used his divine sense to investigate. When he found that there was no one outside, he put away the formation plate with ease. The entrance to the cave above was sealed by him with the Earth Mountain technique for more than 10 feet. The newly sealed rock was not very strong. He took out the baneful life extinction sword and pierced through it. He quickly left the cave and came to the surface. A voice came from above the valley. Dao, you are indeed capable. You hid underground for so long and I actually did not discover you. No wonder you dared to say that you could instantly kill cultivators of the same level. I just don't know how strong you are. Is it really as you said? Can you escape unscathed from this old man's hands? Chapter 446. Hearing these words, this person should be the Flying Sand Wanderer. Wang Daoyuan's divine sense went through the narrow gap above the valley and looked towards the sky. He saw a white-haired old man hovering above the valley on his sword. Wang Daoyuan wasn't sure that he could defeat a peak Zifu disciple, but he wouldn't be unable to resist. If he couldn't win, he could just ride the windfire flying kite and escape. How could the Flying Sand Wanderer catch up to him? If he really had the ability to catch up to the windfire flying kite, then he could only use the Purple Thunder evil punishing token given by his master to send him away. Using this thing to deal with a golden core cultivator might not be able to take him down, but dealing with a peak Zifu disciple was definitely not a problem. The difference between a golden core and a Zifu disciple was like a moat. Although it was rare for a peak foundation establishment cultivator to exchange 2 moves with a Zifu disciple, it was still possible to find a few. Many of the direct disciples of the major powers could do this. A peak Zifu disciple who could exchange 2 moves with a golden core cultivator was hard to come by in hundreds of years. Although Wang Daoyuan didn't want trouble, he wasn't afraid of the Flying Sand Wanderer. He laughed. Dao Yu, do you want to come down and fight, or should I go up and fight? The Flying Sand Wanderer replied, it's better to come up and fight. The valley below is really too narrow. I'm afraid it'll be hard for you and me to use our skills. Wang Daoyuan followed the small path and walked out of the valley. Riding the terminating heaven sword, he flew into the air and faced the Flying Sand Wanderer. Soon after, he took out the white tiger blade and laughed. I didn't want to be a busybody, but things always come to me. I have no enmity with the Flying Sand Wanderers. Why does Dao Yu have to force me? The Flying Sand Wanderer stroked his beard and laughed. As expected of a sword cultivator, this natal artifact is quite extraordinary. Dao Yu also has good skills. If I didn't send people to keep an eye on the Huang Jagged Mountain area, I really wouldn't have been able to find you. I see that you're not very old, but to have such strength, your talent is also out of the ordinary. I'm already old, I just want to try again and see if I can form a golden core. I have a few daughters, not to say they're national beauties, but they're all 1 in a million. My daughters can all be married to you, and the Flying Sand Bandits' family business can all be handed over to you. If I can form my golden core, you will be the son-in-law of a golden core cultivator. Even if he was a live-in son-in-law, it wouldn't be embarrassing if word got out. What does Dao Yu think? Wang Daoyuan smiled contemptuously. To me, forming the Aurus core is just a matter of time. Even if he's a half-step Yuanying's live-in son-in-law, I don't like him. Dao Yu, make your move. I still have a lot of things to do. I don't have time to chat with you. Flying Sand Loose Cultivator coldly snorted, such big words. After saying that, he waved his right hand, and 3 large stones flew over. The white tiger blade in Wang Daoyuan's hand flickered with a silver light, and instantly condensed into 3 sword beams. The sword light flew out and sliced the 3 boulders in half. The 2 halves of the boulder were exhausted and fell down, but the sword radiance still had some energy left. Flying Sand Loose Cultivator frowned. Wang Daoyuan's casual sword radiance had such power. If he used a sword cultivation spell, how strong would it be? Ordinary spells wouldn't be of much use, and would waste his spiritual power in vain. It would be better to directly use a killing move. He dodged the 3 sword beams, and took out a foot-tall earthy yellow gourd. Under the urging of his spiritual power, the gourd quickly grew, and finally grew to more than 10 meters tall. He opened the gourd's lid, and a river of yellow sand gushed out. After a few breaths, the yellow sand that gushed out filled the entire sky. Like a sandstorm, it pressed down on Wang Daoyuan. The sandstorm pressed down on Wang Daoyuan. He probed into the sandstorm, and was shocked. This sandstorm wasn't made of ordinary yellow sand, and it seemed to have an extremely strong suppressive force. Once he got close, he would be suppressed, and even flying on his sword would be difficult. This kind of spell actually restrained the white tiger blade. Even if he used sky-chopping sword, it wouldn't have any effect on this sandstorm. Flying Sand Loose Cultivator hid behind the sandstorm, and it would be hard for him to hurt him. This sand didn't consume Flying Sand Loose Cultivator's spiritual power, but the spiritual power accumulated in the earthy yellow gourd. Moreover, while the gourd was releasing yellow sand, it was also constantly absorbing the surrounding spiritual power. At this rate, there would be more and more yellow sand. Of course, Wang Daoyuan wasn't without a way. Drawing out a wisp of returning dust flame, no matter how much sand there was, it wouldn't be enough. However, once the returning dust flame was exposed, he would probably be besieged by all the Zifu cultivators of Mingsha Plain. Earth attribute spiritual fire was extremely rare, and the returning dust flame was so powerful. If the news spread, there would probably be Jindan cultivators coming to kill him. For a battle that didn't matter whether it was winning or losing, it wasn't worth paying such a big price. If there was a high-level wind attribute spell, it could also completely suppress this sandstorm. Unfortunately, Wang Daoyuan didn't. He didn't intend to take this attack head-on, and turned around on his sword to pull away. This sandstorm didn't have much effect on spiritual sense. Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense was always paying attention to Flying Sand Loose Cultivator's every move. At this time, Flying Sand Loose Cultivator revealed a strange smile. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself that this wasn't good, this was a trick. Without waiting for him to react, the speed of the sandstorm suddenly increased, already surpassing the speed of his flying sword. He immediately called out the flaming wind kite. Under full control, its speed soared, surpassing flying sand. Flying Sand Loose Cultivator followed behind the sandstorm, and poured spiritual power and spiritual sense into the gourd. The gourd spat out yellow sand several times faster. The speed of the entire sandstorm was also constantly increasing. At this rate, its speed would soon catch up to Wang Daoyuan. Right now, the scale of the sandstorm was already very large. Even if he used evasion techniques, he wouldn't be able to go around it before being caught up. If he continued to run, it would be a battle of attrition with Flying Sand Loose Cultivator. It would depend on whether the sandstorm would catch up to him first, or if Flying Sand Loose Cultivator wouldn't be able to hold on first. Wang Daoyuan didn't like to gamble with his life. Rather than gambling with his life, he might as well use his ultimate move and break through the sandstorm. He condensed Earth attribute spiritual power and used the Seal of Kirin. The Seal of Kirin also had a suppressive ability. The suppressive power of the 5 elements seal was strengthened by the Seal of Kirin fusing with the other 4 artifacts. Let's try to see if the Seal of Kirin can suppress the sandstorm. The yellow Kirin's seal's shadow quickly formed. Wang Daoyuan controlled the Kirin's seal to suppress the sandstorm. There was still some effect. The part of the sandstorm that was facing the Kirin's seal had its speed somewhat reduced. However, the speed of the 2 sides was completely unaffected. If this continues, he would be surrounded by the sandstorm. The power of a Kirin seal's shadow was only equivalent to an ordinary rank 3 spell. Wang Daoyuan didn't expect to be able to suppress the sandstorm. It was fine as long as it was effective. He once again condensed the other 4 artifacts and fused them with the Kirin's seal, turning it into the 5 elements seal. Even if the 5 elements seal wasn't fused with the artifacts, its power could still be ranked among the top rank 4 spells. Its suppressive power was definitely not something the seal of Kirin could compare to. Once the Devil's Seal was used, the entire sandstorm was suppressed, and its speed suddenly decreased. Flying Sand Vagabond looked at the 5 elements Devil Suppression Seal and revealed an excited expression. He no longer used all his strength to activate the yellow gourd, but took out his life artifact. This life artifact was also a yellow seal, and its appearance was very similar to the Kirin's seal. Once the seal was used, the sandstorm no longer moved forward. Instead, it gathered above Flying Sand Practitioner's head. The yellow gourd also continued to spit out yellow sand above his head. Wang Daoyuan naturally knew that this old guy had used his trump card. With the previous lesson, he knew that running away was useless. He might as well give him a fierce blow. His cultivation had broken through to the middle stage of the Zifu realm, and he had also comprehended the White Tiger's charm. The White Tiger's sword intent had also improved by quite a bit. All of these would increase the power of the 5 elements seal. Right now, he really couldn't say how much power the Devil's Seal could unleash. Summoning the Black Tortoise Shield, he fused the White Tiger Blade and the Black Tortoise Shield into the Devil's Seal. He also poured all the spiritual energy in his body into it. Soon after, he took out a jar of 1,000-year spirit peach dew and drank a few mouthfuls. This was to prevent his spiritual energy from being exhausted after a single move, allowing him to take advantage of the situation. On Flying Sand Practitioner's side, the yellow sand that filled the sky gathered above his head, condensing into a 300-meter square seal. The life artifact in his hand also fused into the 300-meter seal. The moment they fused, a yellow light flickered, and a wave of power was emitted. Wang Daoyuan was more than 5 kilometers away from him, but he could still feel traces of the suppressive power. If he was in front of him, he probably wouldn't even have the strength to stand up. Chapter 447. The Flying Sand Sangha finished forming the seal, retrieving the yellow gourd and the flying sword under his feet. This was to use all of his spiritual energy on the 300-meter large seal. Under his control, the large seal flew towards Wang Daoyuan. The moment he was locked on by the large seal, Wang Daoyuan felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him. Even his breathing was a bit rough, and the spiritual energy in his body was not flowing smoothly. The closer the seal was, the stronger the suppression. He didn't dare to delay any longer, and controlled the 5 elements Devil Suppression Seal, smashing it towards the 300-meter large seal in the air. The 5 elements Devil Suppression Seal was only 6 inches square, and couldn't compare to the 300-meter large seal. But after the Devil Suppression Seal met it, Wang Daoyuan felt that the suppression was reduced by more than half. About 5 miles away from Wang Daoyuan, the Devil Suppression Seal and the 300-meter large seal collided. However, there wasn't any big movement, and the 2 seals were in a stalemate in the air. After all, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation was a bit weaker, and the 5 elements Devil Suppression Seal lacked the most crucial Kirin seal, so it was at a disadvantage in terms of suppression. When the 2 seals were in a stalemate, he could still feel the suppression from the 300-meter large seal. At this time, Wang Daoyuan's face was pale, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. On the other side, the Flying Sand Sangha was also not feeling well. He was also panting and sweating. But he still had some strength left. After all, his cultivation was higher, and his spiritual energy was more vigorous. Seeing Wang Daoyuan's appearance of not being able to hold on at any time, the Flying Sand Sangha smiled. His opponent could fall at any time, and he could still hold on for a while. How could he lose when he had the absolute advantage? After half a cup of tea's time, Wang Daoyuan was still holding on, and his condition had improved. The 1,000-year-old spirit peach dew he drank before was still recovering his spiritual energy. The Flying Sand Sangha couldn't smile anymore. his current condition was even worse than Wang Daoyuan's, and took out a wine jar. This wine jar was very small, and it looked like it could only hold half a kilogram of wine. After he opened the jar, he drank 2 small mouthfuls with a pained face, and then put the jar away. With the replenishment of the spirit wine, his condition improved after a dozen breaths. After increasing the input of spiritual power into the 300-meter large seal, the devil-vanquishing seal was forced to slowly retreat. This battle, which had been in a stalemate for a long time, entered Wang Daoyuan's favorite segment, competing for resources. Although he was at a disadvantage, as long as his opponent couldn't win quickly, he would definitely have the last laugh. Wang Daoyuan took out a large wine jar that could hold 10 jeans of wine. This jar was filled with 1,000-year-old spirit peach dew. He drank a few mouthfuls and drank more than half a caddy. Loose cultivator Flying Sand's eyelids twitched as he watched. That jar of spirit wine of his was only 700 to 800 years old, and there wasn't even half a jean left. He wasn't willing to take it out unless it was a desperate situation. The two of them weren't too far apart, and with his cultivation at the peak of the Violet Palace realm, he was able to clearly see the quality of the wine in Wang Daoyuan's hand with his divine sense. This jar of wine was definitely more than 1,000 years old. If this continued, he would definitely die. Loose cultivator Flying Sand's eyes revealed a resolute look, and the spiritual power on the 300-meter large seal also became berserk. Wang Daoyuan knew that this old fellow wanted to play ruthlessly, and immediately withdrew the devil-vanquishing seal. Unfortunately, before he could control the devil-vanquishing seal, the 300-meter large seal exploded, and the yellow sand turned into nothingness. The 5 elements devil-vanquishing seal was directly scattered, and the black tortoise shield and white tiger blade received some damage. It was even more serious than when they were acting last time. He was also implicated, and the qi and blood in his body were boiling. His meridians and dantian felt as if they were on fire. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he felt a bit better. He promptly withdrew his 2 natal artifacts, and took out a sweet rain jade dew pill and swallowed it. On the other side, loose cultivator Flying Sand also didn't feel good. After forcefully detonating the 300-meter large seal, his earthen yellow seal also received some damage, and he was also implicated. However, his injuries were a lot lighter than Wang Daoyuan's, but his spiritual power consumption was extremely large. After swallowing a pill, he said with a smile, "You should be Wang Daoyuan, right? There are only a few mid-stage Zifu realm cultivators with penta-spiritual roots, and only you can use the 5 elements devil-vanquishing seal to such an extent. This place isn't far from the treasured Cauldron Mountain, and the matter of you defeating the Golden Core direct disciples of the Tai Sword Sect and Wind Snow Deity Palace was widely spread here." Wang Daoyuan took a deep breath, and said, "If you know too much, you won't live long. Even if you know, it's best to pretend that you don't know." Loose cultivator Flying Sand didn't mind, and took out a palm-sized earthen yellow jade pendant, and said, "You're Daoist Thunderflame's disciple, so you must have some protective treasures on you. However, I've been roaming the Mingsha Plains for hundreds of years, how could I not have any protective treasures? You're also from a cultivator clan, and your ancestor is a golden core cultivator, so you should know what a treasure talisman is, right?" Wang Daoyuan naturally knew about treasure talismans. This thing was a consumable magic tool that extracted the origin of a natal artifact. Refining a treasure talisman wasn't difficult, and Zifu realm cultivators could do it, but the price was extremely high. After refining a natal artifact into a treasure talisman, even if it wasn't completely destroyed, it would still consume hundreds of years of refining. Unless the oil lamp ran out, no one would be willing to use their natal artifact to refine a treasure talisman. After all, passing down a natal artifact to a descendant wouldn't have much use, so it was better to refine it into a treasure talisman, and leave behind a life-saving treasure for the descendant. The jade pendant in loose cultivator Flying Sand's hand had an extremely strong fluctuation of spiritual energy, and it could at least display the strength of an early golden core cultivator. Wang Daoyuan also took out the purple lightning evil punishing token, and said with a smile, "I naturally know about treasure talismans, and this treasure talisman of yours can easily kill me. However, once this treasure in my hand is activated, those below golden core will definitely die. Do you want to give it a try? Loose cultivator flying sand bitterly smiled, and said, previously, I thought too highly of myself, but I didn't expect to meet Daoist Thunderflame's disciple. The flying sand bandit's muddy pond really can't raise a flood dragon like you. You and I can be considered to have no deep hatred between us, so there's no need to fight to the death. Let's turn our hostility into business, what do you think? Both of them put away their life-saving treasures, and Wang Daoyuan also took the opportunity to heal himself with the Azure Dragon Pearl. After a few breaths of time, he stabilized his injuries, and replied, as long as it's not a losing business, I'm willing to listen. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan had the intention to do business, Loose Cultivator Flying Sand felt relieved, and said, Daoyu's natal artifact should be the inheritance of Daoist Fumo. The reason you came to the southern wasteland this time should be to search for earth essence to refine the Kirin seal, right? I've also investigated the spiritual veins in Mingsha Plain, and there's no trace of earth essence. Otherwise, I would have already taken it and refined it into my natal artifact. Speaking of which, we can be considered to be of the same origin, and you should be able to see that this natal artifact of mine is related to the Kirin seal. This seal is called the Thick Earth Devil Suppressing Seal, and it's based on the Kirin seal. Its power and potential are far inferior to the Kirin seal, but it's superior in that it doesn't require earth essence. The refinement method of this Thick Earth Devil Suppressing Seal was also obtained by exploring the cave of a predecessor. This senior lived slightly later than Daoist Fumo. By chance, he obtained Daoist Fumo's inheritance. He was an earth attribute cultivator, and thus decided to refine the Kirin seal as his natal artifact. Unfortunately, it's hard to find earth essence. Therefore, he modified the Kirin seal to create this Thick Earth Devil Suppressing Seal. This senior had a book that recorded his life experiences, and it mentioned the process of him searching for earth essence. According to the book, he once found a treasured land that could nurture earth essence, but unfortunately, the earth essence had yet to take shape. Now, 7,000 to 8,000 years have passed, and the earth essence should have been nurtured by now. Dao Yu should be interested in the location of the earth essence, right? When Wang Daoyuan heard this, he didn't hide his intention and directly said, I'm not a hothead who just left the mountain. I know the rules. Just tell me what you want me to do. Loose Practitioner Flying Sand praised, Dao Yu is indeed straightforward. Then, I won't beat around the bush. I wonder if Dao Yu has heard of the true Devil Blood Lotus? Wang Daoyuan had a puzzled look on his face. He didn't have any high-level pill refinement inheritance. There were many rare spiritual plants that he didn't know about, and he had never heard of the true Devil Blood Lotus. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.